Chapter 7:14. For woody plant phase, the tree core was the core of the plant phase. It was the source of power for plant phase. For most plant phase, having their tree cores dug out was a dead end. However, Endless Summer now had two tree cores that nourished and connected with each other. One of the tree cores was formed by the plant phase cardinal treasure, the life form sacrificial fire. After the life form sacrificial fire became Endless Summer's tree core, it gave Endless Summer an insane recovery ability. The two tree cores allowed Endless Summer to have two sources of power, and its overall strength had increased by several times. This increased Endless Summer's chances of becoming a creation breed Fae by several times. Endless Summer had previously felt that it could not withstand the creation tribulation and become a creation breed Fae. Now, Endless Summer felt that she had the strength to face the creation calamity of becoming a creation breed. Upon hearing Endless Summer's words, Lin Yuan pondered for a moment and recalled the knowledge that the Moon Empress had told him about the plant phase tree core. Lin Yuan asked Endless Summer, "Endless Summer, is your tree growing two cores considered a mutation or evolution?" Endless Summer's expression suddenly became solemn. "I was just an ordinary hydrangea flower at first. When I was at Elite, a gold summer brocade was trampled to death by a group of monkeys. I also happened to use my roots to absorb the summer brocade's energy, which allowed me to mutate into the summer embroidery flower at bronze. After comprehending the enlightenment willpower and successfully transcending the world cleansing, it transformed into the enlightenment law and transformed into Endless Summer. It's the same for us myth breed phase, including little sister blood. We can clearly feel the direction of evolution in our bodies. After the tree grows two cores and connects them, I can faintly sense that if I successfully transcend the creation tribulation and become a creation breed, then I can transform into Endless Divine Dream Summer. Actually, I have my current achievements mainly thanks to the summer hibiscus that was trampled to death by a group of monkeys. Otherwise, my bloodline wouldn't have mutated and become an expert." This was the first time Lin Yuan heard Endless Summer talk about her experience. He didn't expect Endless Summer's path of growth to be so inspiring or full of coincidences. Before Endless Summer transformed into Endless Divine Dream Summer, Lin Yuan was unable to use true data to check what kind of Fae the Endless Divine Dream Summer was. However, just by listening to the name, Lin Yuan knew that Endless Summer, who had comprehended the enlightenment law to control the mind, must have reached a new level of control over the mind after being bestowed with the words Divine Dream. At this moment, Duan He, who stood at the side, asked with slight surprise, "Why aren't you grateful to the group of monkeys that trampled the gold summer hibiscus to death? Why are you thanking Fanxia instead? If the gold summer hibiscus hadn't been trampled to death by the monkeys, you wouldn't have been able to absorb it and evolve, right?" Before Duan He could finish, Violet Demon stuck her tail into his mouth and sealed it shut. Violet Demon said apologetically to Endless Summer, "Sister Xia, this is an old talker. I'll help you take care of him later." Endless Summer shook her head indifferently. Then, she said with a somewhat frantic expression, "Not only did those stupid monkeys stomp the summer hibiscus to death, but they also pissed on my roots. I couldn't help but retch for over a month when I was absorbing the energy of the summer hibiscus. Why do I have to thank them? Instead, those monkeys should be thanking me. When they were being chased by the giant viper forest anacondas, I used a tree of flowers to provide them with shelter for 100 years. But those damn stupid monkeys actually had the mind to reproduce when they were hiding on the tree from the giant viper forest anacondas." Endless Summer's words let Lin Yuan know that Endless Summer had been very annoyed by the monkeys. Moreover, after this period of contact, Lin Yuan realized that Endless Summer had a very serious obsession with cleanliness. Even so, Endless Summer was still willing to use its body to provide shelter for the monkeys. It could be seen that even though Endless Summer was very disdainful of the monkeys, it was still grateful for the chance for mutation and evolution that the monkey's unintentional trampling had given it. Suddenly, Lin Yuan understood why Endless Summer had not hesitated to become his protector when he had given the life-form sacrificial fire to Endless Summer to help it survive. It was because Endless Summer valued kindness very much. An unintentional trampling was 100 years of protection, not to mention that Lin Yuan had saved Endless Summer's life. Just as Endless Summer was thinking about taking at least 3 more baths because of the monkeys, Lin Yuan shook his hand. Lin Yuan shook his hand, and a few sparkling diamond-like crystals appeared in his hand. When Endless Summer saw these sparkling crystals, she immediately held her breath. Then her breathing uncontrollably quickened. The Mother of Bloodbath and the Purple Demon had not reached Myth 3 and did not need to absorb the pure power of law in the law crystals. However, Endless Summer had reached Myth 3 and had an instinctive desire for the power of law. Moreover, the law crystals in Lin Yuan's hand were so pure that they could be easily absorbed. At that moment, Endless Summer heard Lin Yuan's serious question. Endless Summer, how many of these law crystals do you think will allow you to become a creation breed? A creation breed was an unfamiliar concept to Lin Yuan. As his master, the Moon Empress had only mentioned that there was a creation breed above myth breed at most. The Moon Empress would not tell Lin Yuan about the power of law and creation breed phase when he was still a C-rank professional. Therefore he had to ask Endless Summer, who was at Suzerain/Myth 3, about this knowledge. The law crystal in Lin Yuan's hand, which contained pure power of the law, was the product of 1/5 of the law crystal fragments that Duan He had given Lin Yuan after being purified by the princess skirt. When Lin Yuan saw Endless Summer's expression of wanting to take the law crystal and examine it carefully, he placed the law crystal in his hand and Endless Summer's hand. Endless Summer held the law crystal in her hand and looked at it in fascination for a moment. If every single one of them is a law crystal of this purity, then I'll need about 100 of them to reach the peak of Myth 3. From there, it will attempt to break through to the creation breed Fey realm. Upon hearing Endless Summer's words, Lin Yuan started to calculate carefully in his heart. The law crystal fragments provided by Duan He could refine a total of 5 such law crystals. Coupled with the large number of transactions with Sun Ningxiang, the number of law crystals in Lin Yuan's hand had reached 20. Although the 100 law crystals that Endless Summer mentioned were a lot, in his opinion, it was not an extravagant hope that could not be achieved. The third one. Ask for a monthly ticket. End of chapter. Chapter 7:15. Lin Yuan had yet to take out the large pieces of law crystals that he had extracted from the complete law crystals. In the following period of time, Lin Yuan was more diligent and traded with Sun Ningxiang. Lin Yuan felt that it would not be difficult to gather 100 pieces of law crystals. He had never been afraid of anyone when it came to risking his life. In fact, if he could cooperate with Sun Ningxiang in other aspects, he might be able to obtain more law crystal fragments. He might even empty the law crystal fragments that the Sun family had accumulated for hundreds of years in the Dew Immortal Garden. Lin Yuan's sacred source life form could not only extract pure law crystals from the law crystals in myth breed phase, but it could also extract pure law crystals from the law crystals in class 7-dimensional life forms. Even though the law crystal's content was much less than that extracted from the law crystal in myth breed phase, it could not withstand dimensional rifts. However, the Radiance Federation was constantly opening dimensional rifts, and there would be an active period of the dimensional rifts every decade. Therefore, there were a lot of law origin crystals in the Radiance Federation. Law origin crystals did not have any specific use to others and were just a symbol of strength. It was a good thing for Lin Yuan. It was far easier for Lin Yuan to collect law origin crystals than law crystal fragments. Lin Yuan's initial plan was to give these pure law crystals to the Mother of Bloodbath. Since Endless Summer also had the potential to become a creation breed, and the Mother of Bloodbath was still a distance away from Myth 3, Lin Yuan decided to let Endless Summer use these pure law crystals first. At the same time, Lin Yuan was determined to deepen his cooperation with Sun Ningxiang. This was because the current nurturing of Sky City's top faction still depended on the law origin crystals and law crystal fragments that Sun Ningxiang provided in the process of trading with him. After pondering for a while, Lin Yuan took out a brocade pouch. He solemnly handed it to Endless Summer and said, "Endless Summer, use these things to improve your strength first. Endless Summer, use these things to improve your strength first. I'll provide some more to you after a period of time until you reach the pinnacle of Suzerain X/Myth 3 and become a fantasy breed to face the creation tribulation. I'm looking forward to your evolution into endless divine dreams Summer." Lin Yuan's words made Duan He's pupils shrink. As Duan He interacted with everyone during this period, he could not help but feel that he really had many companions. Furthermore, this feeling was growing stronger by the day. It even made Duan He feel a sense of duty towards Sky City. If Duan He had started working for Sky City and Lin Yuan because of the oath, then he now wanted to contribute to Sky City from the bottom of his heart. It wasn't just because of Lin Yuan's promise and the fact that he was the Moon Empress disciple. Duan He, who knew Lin Yuan's identity, naturally guessed what was in the brocade pouch that Lin Yuan handed to Endless Summer. To be able to increase the strength of Endless Summer, who was at Myth 3, the half-full brocade pouch would definitely be filled with the same pure law crystals as the one in Endless Summer's hand. Previously, Duan He had never understood the definition of doting. Duan He, who had a preconceived notion of Lin Yuan's identity, subconsciously thought that the pure law crystal in Lin Yuan's hand came from the Moon Empress. It had never occurred to him that these law crystals, which contained pure nomological power, had been refined from Lin Yuan's contracted sacred source life form. Upon seeing Lin Yuan casually taking out so many pure law crystals, Duan he felt that the Moon Empress really doted on Lin Yuan too much. Lin Yuan did not know what Han Shirhe was thinking. Even if he knew, he would only smile and say to Duan, "My master dotes on me far more than you think. My master dotes on me far more than you think." Endless Summer took Lin Yuan's brocade pouch. The light weight in her hand made Endless Summer's heart feel heavy. Endless Summer had grown from a tender hydrangea in the depths of the endless forest and evolved step by step to become a myth expert. Endless Summer had experienced countless dangers of fighting against the heavens and brushed past death. Endless Summer had fought against the heavens time and time again to seek opportunities to mutate and evolve. Even Endless Summer herself could not remember how much effort she had put in. Since Endless Summer had reached the myth breed realm, she naturally knew how difficult it was to increase her strength again in such a realm. Countless talented myth breed fays were stuck at myth 3 and did not have the chance to experience the calamity of world creation to become creation breeds. It was the same for many fantasy breed fays that could not transform their willpower into laws and undergo the world cleansing test to become myth breeds. If Endless Summer were to cross this hurdle by herself, she would not be able to do so. Even though Endless Summer had 2 cores and 2 cores, she was still not sure if she could reach that step. But now Lin Yuan had extended his hand and gifted her with a great opportunity, allowing her to effortlessly cross the most difficult part of the road. Such an opportunity was no longer something that could be expressed with gratitude, and it was not something that could be repaid with gratitude. This was because Lin Yuan had gifted her a true path to the heavens. Once she passed the calamity of world creation and became a creation breed, the level of life would be completely different. Even if a fantasy breed only existed in fantasy, it was ultimately a life form that carried willpower. The appearance of a myth breed fae could set off a shocking legend, but it was just a legend created by laws. However, when it reached the level of a creation breed creating a world, the laws would create an unparalleled true world. It might even reach immortality. Endless Summer didn't express much at that moment. She just stared deeply at Lin Yuan and nodded. Then, Endless Summer stared at the warm mural on the mansion's landscape wall and revealed a heartfelt smile. This smile was as though it had cultivated a curtain of summer in the cold winter and set off the colorful midsummer. The mother of Bloodbath was also happy for Endless Summer. At the same time, it was also digesting its considerable progress during this period of time. During this period, the mother of Bloodbath was using the exclusive skill External Blood Bone that it had obtained as a myth breed fae to transform the red water blood snake that Lin Yuan had enhanced to bronze/legend. It allowed the 3-tailed red water blood snake to become a part of the mother of Bloodbath's body. The mother of Bloodbath was already halfway done, and it only needed another day or 2 for the external blood bone to complete the transformation. This would allow the mother of Bloodbath's strength to achieve a qualitative leap. The mother of Bloodbath looked at the nearly 20 dead fantasy breed fays piled up at Duan He's feet outside the mansion, as well as the 3 decapitated mid-tier king-class experts, 3 high-tier king-class experts, and 2 pinnacle king-class experts. The mother of Bloodbath's eyes could not help but become sharp. First, end of this chapter. Chapter 7:16. The mother of Bloodbath's eyes were sharp and chilling at the same time. Just as the mother of Bloodbath was about to extract the blood energy from these fantasy breed fays and king-class experts, Lin Yuan suddenly grabbed its wrist. Lin Yuan held onto the mother of Bloodbath's raised hand and thought to himself, "Fortunately I was fast enough. Otherwise, if the mother of Bloodbath extracted the blood energy from these fantasy breed fays, these fantasy breed fays would no longer be complete. I can't let the Royal Highness extract the willpower hidden in these dead fantasy breed fays through the Royal Highness's skirt." Upon seeing the mother of Bloodbath reveal a doubtful expression, Lin Yuan quickly said, "Fortunately, I was fast enough. After I'm done with them, I'll let you absorb the blood energy contained in them. I still have some use for these dead fantasy breed fays. After I'm done with them, I'll let you absorb their blood energy." With Redthorn's eye of relinquished continuous supply, a few bunches of blood brew grapes on the blood brew grapevine had already ripened. With Redthorn's eye of relinquished continuous supply, a few bunches of blood brew grapes on the blood brew grapevine had already ripened. Lin Yuan spoke to the mother of Bloodbath again. "A few bunches of blood brew grapes on the blood brew grapevine have also ripened recently. I'll give those bunches of blood brew grapes and these fantasy breed fays to you in a while." Upon hearing that, the mother of Bloodbath's eyes immediately flashed with surprise. At the same time, it could not help but be very surprised. Wasn't Lin Yuan's speed of nurturing blood brew grapes too fast? How many high-grade phase essence blood did Lin Yuan use to water the blood brew grapevine to let it grow blood brew grapes so quickly? From what Lin Yuan had said just now, it was not just a bunch of blood brew grapes that had ripened. This was simply great news for the mother of Bloodbath. The mother of Bloodbath had always been strong-willed and knew the current situation of Sky City. The previous battle with Nightmare 6 had made the mother of Bloodbath realize how weak it was. After Lin Yuan had been sucked into the evolving water world dimensional rift, the mother of Bloodbath had felt the helplessness of not having enough strength. Therefore, after returning, the mother of Bloodbath had desperately wanted to increase its strength. With the supply of blood brew grapes, the mother of Bloodbath would soon be able to welcome its third world cleansing with a large amount of blood energy. He advanced to Myth 3 and martial materialization. The mother of Bloodbath felt that it had to reach at least Myth 3 to be able to protect Lin Yuan's safety in the current situation of Sky City. He was practicing his responsibilities as Lin Yuan's path protector. Alright, I'll split the essence blood and spiritual ingredients after I'm done absorbing these fantasy breed phase blood. Treat it as an accumulation of high-grade spirit materials. As it spoke, the mother of Bloodbath felt its hands itch, and it couldn't help but be eager to try. Lin Yuan knew that the mother of Bloodbath's bone crusher was about to show its might again. He might not have any need for high-grade spiritual ingredients, but pure spirit chi could solve almost all problems when it came to enhancing and nurturing phase. However, Sky City still had a proper Class 4 creation master, Master Hong Xin. In the future, Sky City's demand for high-grade spirit materials would only increase. It just so happened that the Zheng family's batch of king-class experts, who had come to the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce to find trouble, had contracted fantasy breed phase. They would be regarded as enriching Sky City's resource accumulation. It could also be considered as solving Lin Yuan's current urgent problem. In order to be able to interact with energy in the Celestial Council, Lin Yuan urgently needed willpower. When Lin Yuan used Morbius True Data to check these 20 dead fantasy breed phase, the weakest was a Diamond 4/Fantasy I Thundertooth Sword Cat. The strongest was a Diamond X/Fantasy V Charm Demon Crabapple. Even with Duan He protecting the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce, Zhou Luo was still injured because the purple demon had been controlled for a moment by this Charm Demon Crabapple, which could almost become a myth breed. The Charm Demon Crabapple was on a list of Class 5 scholars researching support-type phase control abilities. The Charm Demon Crabapple's Chaos Control effect was ranked in the top 10. In the pile of phase under Duan He's feet, there was not only the Charm Demon Crabapple but also 4 other phase. At the same time, there were 4 other phase that had similar strength as the Charm Demon Crabapple. They were all Diamond X/Fantasy V phase. These 4 phase were the Wave-Chasing Dolphin, the Hook Spur Sea Mother, the Scarlet Beak Blood Feather Falcon, and the Poison Peach Healing Butterfly. With such a high-quality batch of dead fantasy breed phase, it was enough for Princess Luo Kun to accumulate a batch of outstanding willpower. Not only did it increase the sacred source lifeform strength, but it also gave Lin Yuan the willpower to face the energy interaction in the Celestial Council in the future. Lin Yuan had just put these dead fantasy breed phase into the Diamond Phase storage box when he saw Listen, Zhou Luo, and Master Hong Xin walking back from outside. At that moment, Listen and Master Hong Xin both had thick dark circles under their eyes. 2 thick eye bags also appeared under Listen's beautiful phoenix eyes. It was obvious that they had not rested well during this period. Master Hong Xin entered and saw everyone in the courtyard, so he nodded at them. Especially when he saw Lin Yuan standing at the entrance of the mansion, Master Hong Xin hurriedly said, "Young master, you have been in seclusion for the past few days. Young master, you have been in seclusion for the past few days. I think the owner of the Green Mountain behind us wants to sell the Green Mountain behind our 2 manors. I took the initiative to snatch that Green Mountain from the hands of a rising faction, the Golden Pig Breeding Base." At this point, Master Hong Xin was still a little angry. This rising faction, the Golden Pig Breeding Base, is too much. They actually want to breed blackback mountain boars and other phase on the Green Mountain behind us on a large scale. If they build a pig farm on the Green Mountain, our 2 manors will become natural public toilets when the wind blows. Even the fragrance of the cinnabar sweet osmanthus in front of young master's courtyard cannot cover the smell of hundreds of thousands of blackback mountain boar manure. Lin Yuan had originally planned to ask Master Hong Xin about Zhou Luo's lava dragon lizard. Upon hearing Master Hong Xin's words, Lin Yuan could not help but be dumbfounded. Not to mention that Master Hong Xin was usually sloppy, but right now Master Hong Xin was indeed quietly protecting the environment of the manor. If there were really hundreds of thousands of blackback mountain boars on the back mountain, no one in the mansion would be happy except for Chu Ci. Coincidentally, Lin Yuan had heard of the rising faction, the Golden Pig breeding base, that Master Hong Shen had mentioned. The Golden Pig breeding base was considered a rising faction that had suddenly risen in the past half a year. It was rather popular on Star Web. It was said that the founder of the Golden Pig breeding base had only opened an ordinary breeding base in a small city. Later on, due to the dimensional rift, the ordinary breeding base had been occupied by dimensional lifeforms. Only the person in charge of the Golden Pig breeding base had survived the dimensional rift. The second was even worse. End of this chapter. Chapter 717. Due to various reasons, the surviving person in charge of the Golden Pig faction started to breed pig species phase that were mainly blackback mountain boars. As luck would have it, the price of pork would skyrocket. It allowed the newly established Golden Pig breeding base to accumulate resources at a rocket-like speed and successfully become a rising faction. Lin Yuan rather admired people who built their businesses from scratch. However, no matter how much he admired them, Lin Yuan could not tolerate living in a public toilet. Lin Yuan could not help but sigh. Well done. It's all thanks to you for buying the green mountain behind the mansion. Since Master Hong Shen had bought the green mountain behind the mansion, the land near the mansion in the royal capital suburbs was only left with a forest beside the green mountain. Lin Yuan felt that he might as well buy that forest as well. In any case, the amount of money that Sky City could take out to buy a forest was just a drizzle. The blackback mountain boars could only live on the mountains. However, if the Golden Pig breeding base bought that forest to breed the woodland spotted pigs, Lin Yuan would have another headache. Lin Yuan planned to leave this matter to Master Hong Shen. When Master Hong Shen heard Lin Yuan's praise, his old face was as happy as a blooming daisy as he chuckled. He chuckled and said, "Young master, I checked that green mountain previously. There might not be anything special about that green mountain, but there are thick rock strata below it. If we can break through the rock strata, we can use the sturdy rock strata under the green mountain as a framework to build the Fey breeding room." As he spoke, Master Hong Shen recalled the golden lotus brocade plant that Lin Yuan had shown him a few days ago, which was a mutation of the flower brocade pearls. As a creation master, Master Hong Shen had been in an excited state for 2 consecutive days after seeing the golden lotus brocade. On the one hand, he was shocked by the golden lotus brocade's increase in the fusion rate of the spirit fluids and spiritual ingredients concocted by creation masters. On the other hand, Master Hong Shen wanted to use his strength to breed the golden lotus brocade in large quantities that could make any creation master go crazy. All of a sudden, Master Hong Shen thought of a problem that he had been thinking about for a long time but had never thought of a solution. "Young master, the underground space might have excellent land resources to breed plant species phase, but there is no light underground. Even if we use plants that emit light like the starlight grass to illuminate the underground space, the light from the starlight grass is ultimately inferior to sunlight in promoting the growth of plant species phase." Upon hearing Master Hong Shen's words, Lin Yuan revealed a mysterious smile. "You don't have to worry about this. I'll handle it. Since you've bought the green mountain behind the manor, why don't you buy the forest beside it as well? When the time comes, we can expand the underground space a little more." After listening to Master Hong Shen's suggestion, Lin Yuan had immediately decided to implement the underground space. In the past, Lin Yuan might have had a headache over the problem of underground illumination. However, he now had 99 newborn sun reflection king lotuses. 99 newborn sun reflection king lotuses were equivalent to 99 small suns. The problem of illumination in the underground space would be solved. He only hoped that when the time came, Master Hong Shen, who was working in the underground space, would not feel that the sunlight from the 99 little suns was too dazzling. A large part of the reason he wanted to build an underground space was for concealment. Moreover, the underground space was under the manor, so it could be considered a part of the manor. It was very convenient. After that, anything that needed to be kept secret could be moved to the underground space. After talking about the underground spatial zone, Lin Yuan asked Master Hong Shen, "Joluo, how is the lava Japalura doing?" Upon hearing that, Master Hong Shen's expression became serious. "There's no problem now. The lava Japalura can recover to its pre-injury state after using the spirit fluid I concocted and recuperating for half a month. If the lava Japalura's wound had been 5 centimeters deeper, its internal organs would have fallen out of the split half of its body. If I had gone a minute later, the lava Japalura might not have been able to hold on due to excessive blood loss. Although Duan he is fine, the listening Heron Chamber of Commerce suffered heavy losses under the attacks of these king-class experts. At that time, all the employees outside the listening Heron Chamber of Commerce were indiscriminately killed by those king-class experts' phase. At that moment Listen's weary voice echoed. Young master, I've taken care of the subsequent matters. The Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's subsequent actions can be carried out as usual. Moreover, the first batch of luxury goods sold by the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce a few days ago was extremely well received. Many other factions even sent a large number of orders to the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce, but I rejected them all. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan knew that Listen did not want him to spend too much time worrying about the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce. At the same time, Listen was assuring him that he could manage the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce well and deal with this crisis. Since Lin Yuan had chosen to believe in Listen, he had also handed the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce over to him. He did not continue to ask Listen about the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's follow-up plans and arrangements. Instead he spoke to Listen. When you return to the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce this time, bring Endless Summer back with you. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Listen's weary face immediately showed excitement. After witnessing Endless Summer's strength and being saved by it from the Grim Reaper, Listen felt extremely at ease at that moment. Listen was not afraid that the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce would face any suppression from the business side. He was confident that he could complete the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's business operations with his brain. However, when it came to hard strength, Listen's brain could not play any role. Lu Jie, who had been silent, spoke at that moment. The active phase of the dimensional rift will end in nearly 4 months. According to the Spirit Guard order, no Emperor-class experts will dare to cause trouble in the royal capital during the active phase of the dimensional rift. Otherwise, they will be locked in the Spirit Guard's cleansing pond. But after 4 months, if the Zheng family's The Arch Powerhouse doesn't come, the Miao family's The Arch Powerhouse will definitely come to the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce. Lin Yuan raised his head and looked at the setting sun. He then looked at Endless Summer and said, "That's right. I believe that Sky City will also have an Emperor-level powerhouse in less than 4 months. Then Lin Yuan said to Endless Summer, "Kill anyone who appears near the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce, be it the Zheng family or the Miao family." Endless Summer nodded upon hearing this and immediately guaranteed, "I will ensure the safety of every employee in the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce." Endless Summer's expression was very solemn, as this was the first time she felt a strong killing intent from the words of a gentle person like Lin Yuan. The third one. End of chapter. Chapter 7:18. He stroked the amber-shaped diamond face storage box that he used as a cufflink and thought to himself, "I still haven't figured out which member of the Zheng family sent that mysterious rapid pigeon from before. It's time to see what the purpose of this messenger pigeon's owner is." In a secret room in the Zheng family's main residence, bottles and jars were placed with all kinds of rare spiritual ingredients from Phase. A youth wearing a Creation Master robe was sitting on the sofa with an ashen expression. A black and white little marten jumped up and down, occasionally taking a chess piece from the chessboard on the seat and secretly chewing it. At that moment, a loud bang on the table scared the black and white little marten, and it hurriedly threw the chess piece that it had secretly taken back into the chess pot. The youth wearing the Creation Master robe was no longer as calm as he used to be. Instead, he said angrily with an ashen expression, "Are there jackals, wolves, tigers and leopards in the royal capital? We sent out so many king stage powerhouses, including 2 peak king stage powerhouses, but we've lost track of them all. I, Zheng Kaiyuan, don't believe that the royal capital's Zheng family can't reach out." At that moment, the smiling elder standing beside Zheng Kaiyuan said, "Young master, please calm down. I feel that young master doesn't have to be too concerned about the line of words carved by the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's experts on the table. Since things have come to this, I feel that young master should talk to madam about this matter. It doesn't matter if the royal capital's Zheng family can't reach out, but madam can." The smiling elder's expression was normal when he mentioned the Zheng family, but when he mentioned the word madam, his expression was filled with deep respect. A wisp of deep respect appeared on his face. Zheng Kaiyuan played with the thumb ring on his finger, which was made of turquoise and inlaid with deep-sea red blood coral patterns. He glanced at the smiling elder beside him and said with some displeasure, "Father won't be happy. Looking for mother for everything, father won't be happy." Furthermore, the king-class experts sent to the royal capital this time are all from the Zheng family's hidden investigation team. It's impossible for father not to know that the hidden investigation team has suffered such a huge loss. Why don't I immediately send Nightmare 4 and Nightmare V to the royal capital? Both of them are good at concealment, and they should be able to investigate the background of the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce. The smiling old man's throat was a little itchy. Now that he heard Zheng Kaiyuan's words, he almost started coughing. The smiling old man hurriedly consoled. Second young master, you must not act rashly again. Putting aside the fact that there were 2 pinnacle king-class existences among the batch of king-class experts that were sent to the royal capital, Nightmare VI's death while following the 3 lineages shows that the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce definitely has an Emperor-class expert guarding it. Moreover, the Emperor tier combat power behind it is at least an advanced Emperor tier at the very least. Otherwise, it would be impossible for them to kill a suzerain/myth 2 nightmare. The smiling old man's words caused Zheng Kaiyuan's frown to deepen. Zheng Kaiyuan watched as the black and white sable spun around on the chessboard, coveting the chess pieces in the pot. Zheng Kaiyuan was annoyed. With a wave of his hand, he recalled the Yin-Yang Senro mink back into his spiritual space. Upon seeing this, the smiling old man struck while the iron was hot. Young master, not only does the blood of the Zheng family flow in your body, but the blood of the Miao family also flows in your body. During the active phase of the dimensional rift, no one dares to disregard the ban issued by the spirit guards. The Zheng family is just a veteran faction. Their movements in Indigo Azure City are restricted at this time. If they make any strange moves or cause any trouble, they will be punished by the 2 envoys who are still in Indigo Azure City. But the Miao family is different. They are a top-notch faction. If young master tells Madam about this, Madam might just settle the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce for young master. Zheng Kaiyuan replied helplessly. Uncle He, aren't you annoying? Tell mother about this. Once mother makes a move, master will definitely know that I haven't been practicing spirit fluid concoction and improving my strength as a creation master. When that time comes, I will be taken to the beast creation garden and forced into seclusion by master's side for a year. Uncle He's smiling face twitched when he heard this. In Uncle He's understanding, his young master was not someone who would suffer losses. It seemed that he was afraid of being taken to the beast creation garden by Master Miao Qi and forced into seclusion. Zheng Kaiyuan pondered for a long time, stood up, sighed, and took the initiative to speak to Uncle He. Follow me to see mother. Father gave Nightmare 1, Nightmare 2 and Nightmare 3 to Big Brother and gave me Nightmare 4, Nightmare 5 and Nightmare 6. If Nightmare 1, which is 1 step away from becoming a creation breed, is in my hands, I can still continue to settle this matter by myself. Big Brother is a member of the Radiance 100 sequence, and his mind is not on inheriting the family. Father gave Nightmare 1, Nightmare 2 and Nightmare 3 to Big Brother. What a waste. At that moment, a middle-aged woman wearing a long dress embroidered with all kinds of gems and spiritual materials was holding her waist-length hair with one hand while gracefully fiddling with various precious luxury jewelry in the groove on the wall. The gorgeous dress filled the middle-aged woman, who did not look very outstanding, with a graceful temperament. The middle-aged woman frowned slightly and looked at the luxury jewelry in the groove with a rather serious expression. It was as though she was in a dilemma about which ring, which necklace and which pair of earrings should she wear. At that moment, a stout old woman walked over from behind the woman and bowed to her. Madam, young master is here to see you. Upon hearing that, the middle-aged woman's slightly frowned brows relaxed. She no longer hesitated and gracefully took a pair of earrings inlaid with light attribute law crystal fragments from the groove and hung them on her earlobes. She took the initiative to turn to the door and pulled Zheng Kaiyuan into the room. Then, she pulled over a roll of cloth ruler and said with interest, Kaiyuan originally wanted to look for you. Kaiyuan was going to look for you, but now that you're here, it just so happens that you're here. Let me measure you. Have you grown taller? I happen to have time to make 2 sets of clothes for you. Upon hearing that, Zheng Kaiyuan felt that he had come at the wrong time. His mother, Miao Ji, was a class 5 weaver. She was good at everything, but she liked to make clothes when she had nothing to do. Every time she measured him, he would not be able to satisfy his mother's obsessive-compulsive disorder without at least an hour. Zheng Kaiyuan hurriedly told his mother the purpose of this trip. Miao Ji, who originally wanted to measure Zheng Kaiyuan's clothes, heard Zheng Kaiyuan's words, and her wrinkled brows immediately turned fierce. The ferocious glint in her eyes was like a sharp needle at the back of the yellow peak. Kaiyuan, how much do you know about the faction behind the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce? Everyone in the Radiance Federation knows that the Zheng family has the support of the Miao family. Since the other party knows your identity and still dares to find trouble and kill the people you sent, they are looking down on me and the entire Miao family. Hehe, they have to pay a painful price for looking down on me and the entire Miao family. The first one was even worse. End of this chapter. Chapter 719. After Nightmare VI's death, Zheng Kaiyuan had gone to look for the Indigo Azure Guard captain to inquire about the news. At that time, the Indigo Azure Guard captain had only left the words Sky City and had not divulged any information about that battle. However, Zheng Kaiyuan couldn't wrap his head around the term Sky City. He had never heard of a power called Sky City before. Zheng Kaiyuan had never told anyone about it, but now that his mother had asked, he did not hide it. "Mother, I've investigated in many ways. It's said that the faction behind the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce is called Sky City. It's just that I've never had a clue about this force called Sky City." Zheng Kaiyuan thought he was just saying something normal, but he did not expect his mother to suddenly frown. Then, the ferocious look in her eyes became even more intense, as though the original bee stinger had turned into a scorpion stinger. The ferocious glint in Miao Ji's eyes seemed to have covered the light emitted by the law crystal fragments embedded in the earrings. Then Zheng Kaiyuan heard his mother sneer. "Sky City. It's Sky City again. I didn't expect Sky City to have a conflict with my son a month before they went against the Miao family's beast creation garden." Miao Ji might have married into the Zheng family, but as a core member of the Miao family, she still had great authority in the Miao family. She naturally knew that the Miao family was plotting against the Sun family's Dew Immortal Garden. This move was very important to the Miao family. The Sun family had declined, and only an old woman and 2 children were left to support the family business. The Sun family was a fat piece of meat in the Miao family's eyes. As an apex faction, if the Miao family's beast creation garden could swallow the Sun family's Dew Immortal Garden. With the Sun family's resources and a large number of creation masters, the beast creation garden could completely take over the Sun family's business and monopolize the plant-type Fey market. By then, the Miao family would be qualified to compete with Ascending Dragon City's Long family, which had the same function and almost monopolized the dragon-type Fey market. Therefore, the Miao family must not have any mishaps with the Sun family's big chess piece. However, the appearance of Sky City had broken a hole in the Miao family's chess game that was about to surround the Sun family. This allowed the Sun clan's Dew Immortal Garden to have a chance of survival. After an intense investigation, the Miao family was shocked to discover that Sky Castle, which had suddenly appeared on Star Web and had been contending with the Miao family, did not have a foothold in reality. He was like a specter that had appeared out of nowhere on Star Web, leaving the Miao family with no way to deal with him. Now that her son Zheng Kaiyuan had encountered trouble, Miao Ji had helped the Miao family find the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce that Sky City controlled in reality. Regardless of whether it was a dragon or a snake, it would always be terrifying if it hid in the dark. However, if he could pinch the tail, he would have the opportunity to use his great strength to pull out the hidden dragon snake. Mother, Sky City's combat strength is quite strong. At the very least, they have the combat strength of a high-level emperor. Zheng Kaiyuan then told Miao Ji about how he had dispatched Nightmare 6 to assist Jiao Hansong in killing the masked youth. When Miao Ji asked her son Zheng Kaiyuan about the style of the mask on the young man's face, a look of certainty appeared in her sinister eyes. According to the information provided by Zheng Kaiyuan, the patterns on the masks of the 2 masked youths were different. One of them was wearing a mask with the majestic Sky City pattern, which was the same as the mask worn by the youth in Sky City's Star Web private territory. Miao Ji felt that the 2 were very likely to be the same person. This meant that the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce was a very important industry to Sky City. However, Miao Ji did not understand why a small chamber of commerce like the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce, which was not even considered a rising faction, would be worth the attention of a faction like Sky City, which had a huge amount of creation master resources. Kaiyuan, leave this matter to me. Continue to focus on improving your strength as a creation master and prepare to participate in next year's Youth Creation Master Convention. Seize the top 10 spots. Upon hearing his mother's words, Zheng Kaiyuan nodded helplessly. He said with a slightly conflicted expression, "Got it? I will now be concocting the spirit fluid in the breeding room for 12 hours a day. I will definitely strive to break through to the level of an intermediate class 3 creation master within a year." Miao Ji shook her head. "How can 12 hours be enough? I called Big Sister and she said that you must be like when you were in the Beast Creation Academy. Concoct the spirit fluid for at least 16 hours a day." Zheng Kaiyuan's face turned bitter and looked like a frosted eggplant. "Got it, I will strive for it." Miao Ji reached out her hand to help Zheng Kaiyuan adjust his collar and said, "You can't just strive for it. You must ensure that you reach the level of an intermediate class 3 creation master within a year. Big Sister said that if you can't guarantee to concoct the spirit fluid for 16 hours a day, I will send you back to Big Sister." Zheng Kaiyuan could not help but shiver. His master, Miao Qi, was always good to him and would give him anything he wanted. It was just that she was too harsh. Practicing under Miao Qi for 2.5 years could be considered Zheng Kaiyuan's nightmare. Apart from eating, drinking, and taking a dump, he could only sleep for 4 hours. The rest of the time was spent in the breeding room concocting all kinds of spirit fluids over and over again. Even a prisoner had more freedom than him. The key was that whenever he failed to concoct the spirit fluid or the concocted spirit fluid's fusion rate was not high, his master, Miao Ji, would give him a look of disdain and silent reprimand. Zheng Kaiyuan quickly expressed his stance. I will definitely mix the spirit liquid for 16 hours every day, not a minute less. In addition to concocting the spirit fluid, I will also spend an hour every day writing down my thoughts and experiences in the concocting process. Hearing Zheng Kaiyuan's words, Miao Ji nodded in satisfaction. He suddenly thought of something and said to Zheng Kaiyuan, Sister asked me to tell you that the Spirit Guard's Chief Guard Yi will be holding a Nix assembly in 2 weeks. I heard that Bureau Chief Yi has received a disciple and wants to announce it to the public. At that time, Big Sister will personally come to pick you up and take you to the Nix assembly. Bamboo Monarch, Chef Supreme, and the Moon Empress will also be attending the Great Night Assembly, and they will bring their respective disciples. It is said that the Moon Empress, the only one among the 3 Class 5 creation masters who didn't have a disciple, has also secretly accepted a disciple. Even the Ascending Dragon City's Long Clan's Moon Empress didn't fancy him. I wonder what kind of heavenly prodigy the Moon Empress has chosen as her disciple. Kaiyuan, when the time comes, you have to strive to build a good relationship with Chief Guard Yi and the Moon Empress disciple. This way your future path will be smoother. The second one was even worse. End of chapter. Chapter 720. At this point, Miao Ji paused and continued. If you can find a way to become close friends with Chief Guard Ye's disciple and the Moon Empress disciple, then not only you, but even the Miao and Zheng families can borrow your strength. At that time, not only can you naturally inherit the Zheng family, but you can also have a high voice in the Miao family as the Zheng family head. Miao Ji recalled what Miao Qi had told her. His instructions to Zheng Kaiyuan could be said to be well-intentioned. Zheng Kaiyuan listened to his mother's words and nodded with a solemn expression. Mother, don't worry. I'm best at making friends. Miao Ji was relieved after repeatedly exhorting him a few times. The Nix assembly is about to be held in the royal capital. Coupled with the Spirit Guard's ban, it's not good for me to send people to wipe out the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce now. If there's a big mess when wiping out the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce, it'll be equivalent to slapping Chief Guard Ye's face. After the Nix assembly, I'll send people to get rid of the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce. At that time I, Miao Ji, will explore the depths of Sky City. Lin Yuan took the elite/flawless muscle-growing camellia that Listen had brought back for him and returned to his room. After returning to his room, Lin Yuan flipped his hand, and a small snow-white pigeon appeared in his palm. After this snow-white pigeon was summoned from the face storage box, it rushed toward Lin Yuan's shoulder. However, it was flapped to the ground by Chimey, which Lin Yuan had summoned in advance. Just as Chimey was about to use sound-shattering strike on this small white pigeon, it was stopped by Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan was really afraid that Chimey would kill this rapid messenger pigeon. The silver rapid messenger pigeon did not even have room to struggle in front of the gold/fantasy breed Chimey. After Chimey was stopped by Lin Yuan, it landed on Lin Yuan's ear. Its eyes vigilantly watched the messenger pigeon on the ground, which was struggling to get up after being slapped. Chimey wasn't a violent fae, so it had immediately launched an attack on the messenger pigeon after it was summoned. This was because Chimey could sense the messenger pigeon's hostility toward Lin Yuan. The messenger pigeon was a communication-type silver fae. Even if it was not adept at attacking, its peck attack after a short acceleration could still injure Lin Yuan. As Chimey's closest person, Chimey would not let him get hurt. After the messenger pigeon struggled to get up from the ground, it turned around and fled out the window. Coincidentally, Lin Yuan's bedroom window was open, and the messenger pigeon flew out of the window. Lin Yuan did not stop the escaping messenger pigeon or let Chimey attack it. He watched as the messenger pigeon flew out of the window. After accelerating a few times, it merged with nature and turned into a translucent state before disappearing. Lin Yuan reached out to close the window in his room. Lin Yuan was not the owner of the messenger pigeon and could not let it help him send a message. By releasing the messenger pigeon after such a long time and letting it return, it was enough to show his attitude to the informant. Since someone from the Zheng family had tipped him off at the beginning of the battle between him and the Zheng family, This person must have some sort of motive. Lin Yuan only needed to wait and see what kind of news the next messenger pigeon that flew to the listening heron Chamber of Commerce would bring him. The Zheng family was not united, and someone had other intentions. This was undoubtedly good news for Lin Yuan. As the saying went, the enemy of an enemy was a friend. Moreover, it was a friend from the Zheng family who could grasp the Zheng family's information. After dealing with all these, Lin Yuan returned to the Spirit Lock spatial zone with Chimey. When Lin Yuan entered the Spirit Lock spatial zone, he saw Genius squatting there and wagging its 5 fluffy tails. It was using the concocted spirit fluid to infect the tender sprouts that Lin Yuan had plucked from the military grain vine. Lin Yuan did not feel any psychological pressure when plucking the branches and leaves from the Sun family's Dew Immortal Nursery's soldier grain vine. The soldier grain vine was constantly growing new branches, and the wind speed rapid antelope would control its wind blades to cut off the new branches every once in a while. Then, Genius would store the soldier grain vine branches that had grown and made the Spirit Lock spatial zone seem crowded into the platinum face storage box. Although the soldier grain vine was only a bronze/epic, the speed at which it grew branches was truly shocking to Lin Yuan. Furthermore, the legendary soldier grain vine's true power would only be revealed after reaching platinum. The soldier grain vine was still in a restrained state. However, even though the army's rations Daikin had shrunk its edge, it was still an astonishingly large granary. When Chimey saw that Genius and Lin Yuan were busy, it obediently returned to the bird's nest formed by the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree's branches and leaves to absorb the exceptional flame energy sealed in the leaves at the top. In just a short moment, Chimey's feathers had all turned golden. When Genius saw that Lin Yuan had come to its side, it hurriedly placed the soldier grain vine branches, leaves and potions aside. Lin Yuan bent over to pick Genius up and put it on his shoulder before asking Genius, "What's wrong?" He asked, "Genius, how is your research on the soldier grain vine branches? Can you think of a way to let the soldier grain vine branches take root?" Lin Yuan looked at the soldier grain vine branches that Genius had taken out for an experiment and reached out to touch the back of his head. Lin Yuan's pure spirit qi, which had always been successful, had completely lost out to the soldier grain vine. Lin Yuan could feel the extremely powerful meridian ability between the various tissues in the soldier grain vine branches. However, once the soldier grain vine branches were separated, it was as though they were dead. In order to preserve the nutrients in the branches to the greatest extent, the wounds were rapidly healed using the final meridian ability. When Lin Yuan injected pure spirit qi into the soldier grain vine branches that had been cut off, it could only allow the soldier grain vine to be infected by the spirit qi and become even more verdant. This spirit qi would not activate the army grain radish's powerful regenerative ability, allowing the army grain radish's branch to grow into a new individual like a normal usnea's branch. Lin Yuan could understand this point. After the great nature created a type of life form, in order to maintain a delicate balance in the world, it would always add a few shackles to the life form that broke the balance. The usneas might be small, but they could flourish everywhere. The soldier grain vine might be powerful, but it was as few as the morning stars. In this world, the Class 5 Creation Master, Chef Supreme, was the one who nurtured the soldier grain vine. The Chef Supreme definitely knew the method to nurture the soldier grain vine. However, Lin Yuan didn't know the Chef Supreme, so he naturally wouldn't know the method to nurture the soldier grain vine. The Sun family had one soldier grain vine, but Lin Yuan didn't think that the Sun family would be able to split it. Otherwise, the Sun family wouldn't have sent over just one military grain radish. However, pure spirit qi wasn't useful now, and Lin Yuan, a dabbler creation master, didn't have any good ideas for now. Chapter 3 Sad Face. End of this chapter. Chapter 721. When Genius heard Lin Yuan's question, it replied in a childish voice. Genius, Lin Yuan hasn't figured it out yet. Genius has tried a few types of Class 3 spirit liquids to nurture plant-type phase, and one of them is specially used to promote plant-type phase to take root. But it doesn't have any effect on the leaves of the soldier's rations vine. Lin Yuan, I have a feeling that after the army provision radish's branches are plucked, the tender branch's ability to divide has disappeared. I want to use the few old stumps at the bottom of the military grain radish to experiment. Lin Yuan, did you notice the difference between the military grain radish and the usneas? The vines at the bottom of the usneas will always grow forward. But if you don't cut the usnea's branches for a period of time, the roots of the usnea will turn into wood. At that time, these woody branches will no longer extend forward, and the woody branches will be tightly attached to the roots. The usneas will also start to differentiate from their roots to their forelimbs after the appearance of their lignified vines. That's why I think that the old wooden stake at the end of the army's rations vine might have the ability to split. After hearing genius words, Lin Yuan's brows twitched violently. This soldier food radish belonged to the Sun family, and Lin Yuan had already checked on its owner. Only 3. The 3 old stumps were also connected to the same root, so it could be said that the 3 old stumps formed the main body of the army grain radish. If he cut off the old stalk of the army grain radish, even if he healed the army grain radish's damaged source, the old stalk would not grow back. At that moment, Genius spoke again. Yuan, the soldier ration radish is only at bronze/epic now. If I can evolve it to the legendary grade, the army grain radish's splitting ability might become stronger. After hearing Genius words, Lin Yuan pondered for a moment. Then he dialed Sun Ningxiang's number decisively. In Lin Yuan's opinion, a gentleman must obtain wealth in a proper way. After listening to Genius words, Lin Yuan was indeed thinking about the army ration's old pillar luo. He wanted to see if he could nurture a foundational resource like the military rations vine no matter what. In the era of the spirit qi awakening, food, shelter, and transportation were all based on the premise that every spirit qi professional had a contracted spirit beast. At this point it has become very easy. Although many spirit qi professionals didn't have flying type phase, they could still travel 100 miles by riding on terrestrial phase. As for clothing and shelter, although these 2 aspects were important, they were not essential for human survival. Humans could still survive without clothes and shelter. But without food it would be impossible. Spirit qi professionals were constantly increasing their strength, and their bodies were being nourished by spirit qi to become stronger. Their bodies' nutritional requirements were also constantly increasing. This was also the reason why high-ranked spirit qi professionals would always feel hungry when eating low-grade spiritual ingredients. Especially phase that spirit qi professionals had to contract. Phase also needed to consume a large amount of nutrients every day to ensure their health and vitality. If the military rations vine could be nurtured, it would be akin to holding a large granary in his hands. Moreover, the army grain radish's vines could feed herbivorous phase, carnivorous phase, and omnivorous spirit qi professionals at the same time. This was akin to saying that as long as he had the military rations, he would have a trump card in terms of food. No matter what happened in the future, he would never need to worry about food. If possible, Lin Yuan even wanted to buy the entire military grain vine from Sun Ningxiang's hands. Soon Sun Ningxiang picked up the phone. Lin Yuan heard Sun Ningxiang's enthusiastic voice over the phone. Haha, I was just about to look for you. I didn't expect you to call me first. I forgot to tell you yesterday that there's no need to be too anxious about enhancing phase. It just so happens that in addition to the 80 plant phase that need to be induced with high purity spirit qi, I've sorted out another 100 phase that need to be enhanced. I'll send you the 100 law origin crystals as a reward in a while. Sun Ningxiang's words made Lin Yuan feel stunned because there was a huge contradiction between her words. Although Sun Ningxiang said that there was no hurry, under the premise that he had not mailed the 80 phase to Sun Ningxiang last time, Sun Ningxiang had sent him another batch of phase that needed to be enhanced along with the reward. On the one hand, Lin Yuan could understand it as Sun Ningxiang's goodwill, using 100 law origin crystals to show her trust in him. But if that was the case, then Sun Ningxiang's trust once again showed the Du Immortal Garden's predicament. It proved that Sun Ningxiang had no other choice but to trust him. Take Lin Yuan for example. If he traded with others, he might also pay first because of trust. However, this kind of situation would definitely not happen to someone he had only met a few times. Even if there was, it would be with trustworthy friends like Gao Feng who had done many transactions. Moreover, even if Lin Yuan paid first because of trust in Gao Feng, he would never pay for the second transaction in advance before the end of the first transaction. Lin Yuan was letting Wen Yu investigate the Sun family's Du Immortal Garden's trouble, and he would have an answer tomorrow or the day after. Originally, Lin Yuan just wanted to understand the faction he was cooperating with so that he had a good idea. However, Sun Ningxiang's approach made Lin Yuan start to become interested in the Sun family's problems. Now that Sun Ningxiang had once again expressed her trust in him, Lin Yuan had to give a reply. I'm not in a hurry, but the 80 phase that require high concentration spirit qi to evolve have been nurtured. I will get Ostrich Logistics to deliver it to you in a while. 3 hours later, the 80 phase that have evolved with pure spirit qi will be delivered to you. Lin Yuan had just finished speaking when he heard Sun Ningxiang's slightly surprised exclamation from the other end of the phone. Sun Ningxiang, who was on the other end of the phone, was completely stunned. It had only been about 6 days since he had sent the 80 phase that required pure spirit qi to evolve. Even if all the Sky City's creation masters worked for him, A Pinnacle Class 4 Creation Master could only enhance 2 phase a day. That would also require close to 10 Pinnacle Class 4 Creation Masters. Sun Ningxiang definitely did not believe that Sky City could have around 10 Pinnacle Class 4 Creation Masters. In the entire Radiance Federation, there were at most a few dozen Pinnacle Class 4 Creation Masters in addition to the top faction's private stash. Even the Zheng family's Beast Creation Garden, which was a top faction, only had 5 Pinnacle Class 4 Creation Masters. Furthermore, the Zheng family's Beast Creation Garden was a faction that excelled in Creation Master resources. In Sun Ningxiang's opinion, Sky City's Pinnacle Class 4 Creation Master resources could not possibly be more than double that of the Zheng family. Seeking recommendation votes, monthly votes, and explosive updates the day after tomorrow. End of this chapter. Chapter 722. For some reason, Sun Ningxiang felt that Sky City might really be overseen by a Class 5 Creation Master. Either that or Sky City had the habit of storing a large amount of 4-star spirit liquid. Otherwise, how could he use high-purity spirit chi to induce so many phase to evolve so quickly? Sun Ningxiang was about to ask for more information, but before she could speak, Lin Yuan's voice came from the other end of the phone. There was a soldier grain radish among the phase you mailed last time. I'm very interested in it. I don't know if you're willing to part with your treasure. You can name your conditions. On the other end of the line, Lin Yuan was thinking about how he could trade for the soldiers' rations. However, he didn't expect Sun Ningxiang to reject him without hesitation. I'm sorry, I can't part with the army's rations. Upon hearing Sun Ningxiang's resolute tone, Lin Yuan knew that it would be very difficult for him to obtain the military rations from her. However, Lin Yuan still decided to use other moves to fight for it. Last time you said you wanted Bronze/Legend Muscle Revitalizing Camellia. Legendary grade muscle rejuvenating camellias are too rare. However, I can give you some legendary muscle rejuvenating camellias leaf stems. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Sun Ningxiang held her breath and pondered. Sun Ningxiang wanted the Bronze/Legend Muscle Revitalizing Camellia to treat her grandmother's rotten and atrophied muscles and relieve her pain. Sun Ningxiang knew that her grandmother's injuries were too severe. A small amount of the legendary quality muscle revitalizing camellia could only alleviate her grandmother's injuries. Moreover, his grandmother's body didn't just suffer from muscle atrophy. In comparison, muscle atrophy and rotting was considered a relatively minor injury on his grandmother. But the army provisions were the Sun clan's solid foundation. The Sun family's only army grain radish was given by his grandfather, who had risked his life to help Lord Chef Supreme. Furthermore, his grandfather did not seek the Chef Supreme's help to enhance the Fey, which was why the Chef Supreme had bestowed the soldier grain radish to him. Therefore, no matter what, Sun Ningxiang would not trade the rations away. Sun Ningxiang rejected again. I'm still sorry, but the army rations cannot be traded. He wasn't surprised that Sun Ningxiang would reject him for the second time, but he didn't expect her to reject him so firmly. In fact, Lin Yuan did not have to trade the entire military ration vine. In fact, he didn't have to trade the entire soldier grain radish. However, there are 3 old stumps for the soldier's ravenous vine. I want to use the leaf stem of the Bronze/Legend Muscle Revitalizing Camellia to exchange for one of the old stumps for the soldier's ravenous vine. Sun Ningxiang frowned tightly and found it hard to make a choice for a moment. Cutting off the soldier grain radish's old stakes was too damaging to a Fey like the soldier grain radish. Moreover, the soldier grain radish's old stakes could not be recovered after being cut off. Even if new stumps could grow out in the future, who knew how long it would take? Back then, Supreme Chef had given his grandfather only 1 old stalk of the army's grain radish. It took the Sun family several decades to grow it from 1 old stalk to 3 now. Spirit. Sky God Lin and Spirit. But even if he didn't, he one could. Just as Sun Ningxiang was about to agree after weighing the pros and cons, she heard Lin Yuan speak again. How about this? Sky City will upgrade the Bronze/Epic Army grain radish to legendary. Sun Ningxiang, who had been ready to compromise, agreed excitedly. No problem, if you can enhance the soldier grain radish to legend. I'll use complete law crystals to trade according to the previous agreement. Sun Ningxiang had sent the soldier grain radish to Lin Yuan because she wanted him to enhance it from flawless to epic. Then, she would take it back to the Du Immortal Garden and start to enhance the soldier grain radish's grade, which had been stored in the old mansion's treasury. A high-grade soldier grain radish's vines could bring Du Immortal Garden a considerable amount of radiance dollars and expand its shrinking cash flow. A high-grade military grain vine could produce a large number of radiance dollars for the dew-congealing immortal garden, allowing it to expand the dew-congealing immortal garden's shrinking cash flow. After the soldier grain radish's vines were buried in the ground and rotted, the nutrient-rich soil could also promote the growth of other plant phase. She didn't expect that the soldier grain radish, which she thought could only be nurtured to epic, would be lucky enough to be promoted to legend under Lin Yuan's promise. This made Sun Ningxiang especially excited. A foundational resource like the soldier grain radish was nurtured at bronze/epic, and it was far less powerful than nurturing it at bronze/legend. If Lin Yuan could enhance the soldier grain radish to legend, even if one of its vines was cut off, it would have an impact. However, in the long run, the enhancement of the soldier grain radish's quality could be considered a great thing for the Dew Immortal Garden. If he was lucky, it would take 1 or 2 years. There would always be a chance for the soldier grain radish to grow another vines. At that time, the soldier grain radish would have 3 vines again. However, there would be no more opportunities to enhance the soldier grain radish's quality to legend. Lin Yuan originally wanted to use the opportunity to enhance the soldier grain radish to legend to exchange for one of its vines. He didn't expect Sun Ningxiang to still give him a complete set of law crystals according to the previous transaction agreement. Lin Yuan could not help but have a good impression of Sun Ningxiang. During this time, if the Dew Immortal Garden has any phase that need to be enhanced, you can send them over. Sky City will complete the transaction with the Dew Immortal Garden at the current speed. After discussing the transaction, Lin Yuan hung up the phone. On the other end of the phone, Sun Ningxiang couldn't help but reveal a bright smile when she heard the busy tone from the phone. It was like a person who had been in the dark for a long time suddenly seeing the light. Upon seeing Sun Ningxiang's smile, Xinghua, who was helping Sun Ningxiang organize the information, couldn't help but be stunned. Xinghua had grown up with Sun Ningxiang, and in her memory, Sun Ningxiang loved to smile when she was young. Basically, whenever he saw Sun Ningxiang would have a sweet smile on her face. There were even warm dimples beside her smile. However, ever since the Sun family's accident, the smile on Sun Ningxiang's face disappeared. When Xinghua saw Sun Ningxiang smile again after so many years, she felt that everything in the past was like a dream. Xinghua couldn't help but feel a sour feeling in her heart. A direct descendant of a top faction. What a noble identity. But because of this identity, her young lady was also enduring unimaginable pressure. Xinghua looked at Sun Ningxiang's smile and felt extremely distressed. Seeking monthly votes and recommendation votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 723. Sun Ningxiang stood up from the chair and thought about the transaction with Lin Yuan. She could not help but look forward to the express delivery from Ostrich Logistics in 3 hours. Sun Ningxiang had no choice but to express her goodwill and unconditional trust in Sky City. In order to get rid of the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden's manipulation and break free from the current predicament, Sun Ningxiang could only fight with her life on the line. If there was no problem with the express delivery from Ostrich Logistics in 3 hours, Sun Ningxiang's heart that had been hanging in suspense could be truly put at ease. Lin Yuan, who was in the Spirit Lock spatial zone, looked at the soldier ravenous vine that was constantly growing vines and the soldier ravenous vine branch that did not absorb pure spirit chi at all. He only felt a headache coming on. He didn't have the slightest clue what to do. Lin Yuan did not keep thinking about the soldier ravenous vine. Instead, he put the enhanced phase into the diamond phase storage box that Sun Ningxiang had used to mail them over. Lin Yuan took the diamond phase storage box filled with various plant phase out of the Spirit Lock spatial zone and handed it to the Mother of Bloodbath, who was sitting downstairs. He asked the Mother of Bloodbath to hand the diamond phase storage box to Aneng, who had come to pick up the goods. Just as Lin Yuan was about to return to the Spirit Lock spatial zone, he suddenly realized that the soldier ravenous vine branch in his hand was completely different from before. The soldier ravenous vine branch in his hand had turned from tender green to dark green. It had also become hard and stiff from its original soft state. Lin Yuan immediately used his hand to tear the soldier ravenous vine branch and found that it did not quickly use its division ability to heal the leaf's wounds like in the Spirit Lock spatial zone. A large amount of juice flowed out of the torn soldier ravenous vine's thick leaves, filling Lin Yuan's fingers with the sticky juice. Lin Yuan's expression paused slightly, and he frowned slightly. But soon Lin Yuan's furrowed brows relaxed. Lin Yuan thought in his heart, "It seems that my pure spirit chi is not useless for the soldier ravenous vine. It's just that the division ability of the soldier ravenous vine's young leaves can only heal wounds under a high concentration of spirit chi. It is not enough to divide the root part for the soldier ravenous vine to absorb nutrients. Lin Yuan immediately circulated the spiritual power in his body, and pure spiritual power poured into the broken soldier ravenous vine leaf in his hand. In just a short while, the damaged soldier ration radish's leaf turned from dark green to light green in the spirit lock spatial zone. Moreover, the wounds on the leaves were also rapidly growing out of the plant tissues. However, the dead leaf did not recover. Instead, it became a deformed shape due to being torn too big by Lin Yuan. The abundant juice that flowed out of the leaves was quickly replenished under the meridian ability. Let the leaves continue to be stiff. Upon seeing this change, Lin Yuan returned to the spirit lock spatial zone in a flash. Lin Yuan felt that it was very likely that the roots of the soldier's ration's vine would grow. Then, with the help of pure spiritual energy, he transplanted the old stalk of the soldier's grain radish. However, since he had decided to upgrade the army grain radish to legend, it was undoubtedly his best choice to break old zhuang off when it was upgraded to legend. Immediately after, he started to use the opportunity of enhancing the ration radish to enhance the other phase in his hands. Apart from the military radishes, he also had to upgrade the muscle-growing camellia to legend. During the next transaction, Lin Yuan would put a part of the muscle-growing camellia stem and the army grain radish in the phase storage box for Sun Ningxiang. However, if there were only 2 phases, it was not worth it for Lin Yuan to use a spirit chi crystal. After some consideration, Lin Yuan fished out the 5 fortune ranchu, which had the exclusive skill, primordial spirit transformation, that he had prepared for Duan He in the spirit pool. Then Lin Yuan took out a spirit chi crystal and decisively crushed it, guiding the spirit chi into the soldier ration radish, the muscle-growing camellia and the 5 fortune ranchu. In just a short while, the muscle-growing camellia and the soldier ration radish's quality were upgraded. Although the legendary army grain radish hadn't grown a 4th stalk, its original brownish-red stalk was now dotted with golden spots. It also made the slender stalk thicker. Lin Yuan could clearly feel that the speed at which the soldier ration radish grew branches was more than twice as fast as before. The leaves on the epic soldier ration radish's vine were very wide, but after it was upgraded to legend, the wide leaves on the soldier ration radish had shrunk significantly. The shrunken leaves grew densely on the radish vine, and each leaf had a thick, fleshy feeling to the touch. Lin Yuan reached out to pluck a leaf and put it in his mouth before chewing it carefully. Lin Yuan realized that the soldier ration radish might have a faint fragrance of plants. At the same time, it had a slightly sour taste and wasn't very tasty. However, the soldier ration radish's texture was excellent when chewing, and it felt very similar to chewing on grapes. Moreover, because the leaves of the army grain radish were more moist, the army grain radish was more elastic and more brittle than the raisins. After eating a few of the soldier grain vine's leaves, Lin Yuan quickly felt a sense of fullness. He was already full after just eating 4 leaves, and Lin Yuan couldn't help but sigh at the soldier ration radish's power. Given the speed at which the soldier ration radish produced vines, it might be an exaggeration to say that the bronze/legend soldier ration radish could feed the entire Xia region. However, it should be more than enough to feed 100,000 spirit chi professionals in their contracted phase. As for the muscle-growing camellia, it didn't have any changes after reaching legend. It was just that its size was much larger than before, and there were plenty of pale pink flower buds between the leaves. After seeing these pale pink flower buds, Lin Yuan reached out and plucked all the muscle-growing camellia's pale pink flower buds. The muscle-growing camellia was essentially a camellia flower. During the flowering season, it would bloom when the body had sufficient nutrients. The muscle-growing camellia's healing effect was the muscle-growing camellia stem and not the flower. The blooming of the flower would consume the nutrients in the muscle-growing camellia stem, and thus the healing effect would be weakened. However, after Lin Yuan ruthlessly plucked the flower buds, the muscle-growing camellia wouldn't bloom for a long period of time. At that moment, the spirit chi in the spirit chi crystal was already depleted, and the 5 fortune ranch's exclusive skill, primordial spirit conversion, hadn't successfully reached legend. While Lin Yuan was observing the spirit siphon goldfish, the spirit siphon goldfish's body suddenly stopped moving. Lin Yuan noticed that the 5 fortune ranch's tail had become shorter, and its body had become fatter. The sarcoma on its head had also become bigger. Seeking monthly votes and recommendation votes. End of chapter. Chapter 724. The spirit siphon goldfish now looked even cuter than before, and the 5 colors that symbolized the 5 blessings on its body had also become brighter. It was very normal for a phase appearance to change when its quality improved. However, this spirit siphon goldfish had undergone such a change under the premise that its quality had not improved, which was truly shocking. Under Lin Yuan's observation, he could confirm that this spirit siphon goldfish had not evolved toward a dragon species bloodline. This meant that this spirit siphon goldfish was absorbing pure spirit qi while also enhancing its bloodline. This was considered good news for Duan He. Lin Yuan thought for a moment and took out a few wild fays from his amber button-shaped diamond fay storage box. He conveniently nurtured these excellent fays to bronze/epic. Then he took a spirit qi crystal and crushed it. With the injection of a massive amount of spirit qi, this spirit siphon goldfish soon reached legend. The legend spirit siphon goldfish didn't give Lin Yuan any more amazing performances after reaching the legend quality. However, it was already very good that the spirit siphon goldfish could enhance its bloodline to such a level while enhancing its quality. When Duan He contracted this spirit siphon goldfish, its exclusive skill, primordial spirit conversion, would work with the purple demon seven-headed sea demon snake. It would greatly enhance the purple demon's endurance. Under the effect of the spirit qi, the 5 bronze/epic phase that Lin Yuan had just enhanced also successfully evolved to legend. Lin Yuan conveniently stored the 5 newly enhanced bronze/legend phase back into the amber button-shaped diamond fay storage box. Now Lin Yuan's fay enhancement was considered to have come to an end. He walked in front of the soldier grain radish that he had enhanced to bronze/legend and reached out to break off the longest of the 3 old stumps of the soldier grain radish. He then circulated the spiritual power in his body and used his hand to inject pure spirit qi into the soldier ration's vine. Soon, a thin layer of membrane grew at the place where the old stumps were broken. This layer of membrane slowly thickened, and its color darkened until it finally became the color of the old stump's skin. After dealing with the soldier ration's vine's old stake, Lin Yuan started to check the old stake in his hand. He quickly injected spiritual energy into the old stake, and the broken part of the old stake quickly healed. Lin Yuan worked hard for an hour, but he was still unable to make old stump grow roots. Genius pointed at the crystal bottle on the ground and said in a childish voice, "Lin Yuan, try to see if Genius concoction of the 3-star spirit fluid that can increase plant cell activity and promote plant phase to take root has any effect." Lin Yuan took the crystal bottle from Genius and looked at the emerald green spirit fluid inside. He then soaked old pillar Luo in the spirit fluid. However, the wounds on old soldier Luo Zhuang's skin had already healed under the high concentration of spiritual energy and was unable to absorb the spiritual liquid through soaking. He decisively let the source sand use its exclusive skill, metal consume manifestation. A feather made of day and night spirit silver immediately appeared in his hand. He used this feather to cut about 3 centimeters above the military ration radish's wound. Then he quickly poured the liquid into a tray and placed the 2 parts of old Zhuang's body that had been cut off into the liquid. Lin Yuan then poured spirit qi into the spirit fluid in the tray. When the 2 sections of the military supply radish were fully grown again, Lin Yuan examined them in detail. At that moment, Lin Yuan keenly noticed a few white hairs faintly appearing on the cross-section. It was just a few white hairs that were almost invisible to the naked eye. No matter how Lin Yuan injected spirit qi into the military ration vine or how Genius prepared other class 3 spirit liquids to soak in, there was still no significant effect. These fluffy roots did not extend at all. He tried to plant the old soldier ration radish stakes, which had grown fluffy roots, in the revival soil. The army ration radish stalks planted in the revival soil did not grow a lot of radish vines. This meant that the soldier grain radish was still unable to absorb nutrients through its roots and quickly grow vines. At this moment, Genius, who had been observing the usnea vine old stump, spoke in a dejected and self-reproachful tone. "Lin Yuan, it would be great if Tsongming could concoct Class 4 spirit liquids. Class 4 spirit liquids' medicinal effects are definitely much stronger than Class 3 spirit liquids. It might be able to activate the dormant activity in the old soldier grain." When Lin Yuan heard Genius mentioning the term dormant activity, his eyes suddenly lit up as he wanted to console Genius. If the old soldier grain radish was only lacking activity, then Lin Yuan had something that could stimulate the activity of plant phase. It was the life form sacrificial fire that could give plant phase a second life. Although the life form sacrificial fire on the twin red pagoda's main flower had yet to mature, it was several times stronger than when it had just been born. It had grown from the size of Lin Yuan's fingernail to the size of Lin Yuan's thumb. Lin Yuan hurriedly took the old soldier grain radish, which had grown fluffy roots, to the twin red pagoda's side. He then tentatively placed the 3-centimeter-old soldier grain radish's young roots on the leaping life form sacrificial fire on the main flower's head to roast it. Then Lin Yuan circulated his spiritual power and poured pure spirit qi into the old soldier grain radish. After the life-form sacrificial fire's leaping emerald green flame touched the old soldier grain radish, it became entangled with it. The life-form sacrificial fire's leaping green flame dyed the old soldier grain radish with a thick layer of vitality. Then Lin Yuan found that as he spared no effort to pour in a large amount of pure spirit qi, a large number of fluff-like young roots grew at the bottom of the old soldier grain radish. Lin Yuan squatted beside the life-form sacrificial fire for 20 minutes, and the large number of white young roots that grew at the end of the 3-centimeter old soldier grain radish suddenly turned yellow. The moment these roots turned yellow, Lin Yuan felt his vision go black. Then his face suffered a heavy blow, causing him to suck in cold air in pain. When Lin Yuan came back to his senses, he found that he had been pushed nearly 2 meters away by the old soldier grain radish's vines, and there was a wet and hot liquid flowing out of his nose. Lin Yuan knew that he had been hit by the vines that had suddenly grown and was bleeding from his nose. Lin Yuan wiped his nosebleed and rubbed his heavily hit face. He could not help but sigh at the power of plant germination and growth. Even though Lin Yuan looked a little disheveled, the corners of his mouth still curled up into a smile. This was because Lin Yuan finally had a real old soldier grain radish in his hands. No matter where he was in the future or what kind of disaster would happen. In terms of food, no matter what, Sky City would not be restricted, and no one should think of suppressing Sky City in this aspect. Seeking monthly votes and recommendation votes. Giving a preview of tomorrow's explosive chapters. Sob, sob, sob. Strive to publish a few more chapters. Sob, sob, sob. If everyone thinks this book is not bad, praise me in the comments section. Save salted fish button's mental state from being scolded. Sob, sob, sob. End of this chapter. Chapter 725. At that moment, Genius and Chimey noticed that the rapidly growing soldier ration's vine had dealt a heavy blow to Lin Yuan. Chimey flapped its wings from the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree's nest and soared into the sky. While flying, Chimey turned from a golden luan into a blue sound bird and landed on Lin Yuan's ear. Genius also climbed onto Genius' shoulder. Chimey used its wings, while Genius used its tail to help Lin Yuan rub his red cheeks. Even the wind-speed rapid antelope ran to Lin Yuan's feet and arched his leg to show its concern. Lin Yuan revealed a smile. These three fellows were really sensible. In contrast, the blue flash purple butterfly, which slept on the jasmine lily all day, was like heaven and earth. In fact, Lin Yuan wasn't despising the blue flash purple butterfly as he usually interacted with it quite a lot. Every time he entered the spirit lock spatial zone, he would let the blue flash purple butterfly absorb the scale powder of other fays. He would let the blue flash purple butterfly use the nutrients in the scale powder to strengthen the quality of its scale powder. As a bronze insect species fay, the blue flash purple butterfly had low intelligence and only knew how to act based on instinct. The jasmine lily was undoubtedly the most comfortable state for the blue flash purple butterfly. It was the pride of the blue flash butterfly, which was ranked 7th among the top 10 most beautiful fays, and had evolved in the butterfly cocoon. The blue flash purple butterfly was fully qualified to compete for the throne of the most beautiful fay. The blue flash purple butterfly might be an insect species fay, but as its contractor, Lin Yuan could sense its gender. Lin Yuan's contracted blue flash purple butterfly was a 100% male life form. Lin Yuan felt that if he nurtured the blue flash purple butterfly to myth 2, would it become a skinny otaku with heaven-defying looks? The current blue flash purple butterfly was a huge problem for Lin Yuan. He only needed to comprehend the willpower rune that was suitable for the blue flash purple butterfly, and all the fays that Morbius had locked would become fantasy breeds. By then, Morbius would automatically become a fantasy breed. As long as Lin Yuan enhanced the blue flash purple butterfly to silver, he could even use Morbius' exclusive spirit lock spatial zone to lock one more fay. Lin Yuan was also looking forward to what kind of exclusive skill Morbius would comprehend after becoming a fantasy breed. After Lin Yuan came out of the evolving water world dimensional rift, Morbius fell into a deep sleep. The sacred sword-wielding queen in his dream was indeed the sacred source life form that he had contracted. This meant that everything that happened in the dream was real. The more he thought about it, the clearer it was that the favor queen and the pursuit holy sword were afraid of. This familiar copper light was clearly the color of the Mobius bracelet. He could not help but guess that Morbius' slumber had something to do with the favor queen's fusion with the execution holy sword. Lin Yuan felt that when Morbius became a fantasy breed, its consciousness would wake up from its slumber. In his previous life, apart from communicating with Genius Chimey, Lin Yuan would always share his growth experiences with Morbius before going to bed until he fell asleep. Morbius had been asleep for such a long time, and Lin Yuan really missed it. However, Lin Yuan was still puzzled by the copper light that lit up in the sky. He had a guess. But what exactly was the radish that grew in every corner of his soul world in the dream? Lin Yuan remembered that the radish that grew in his soul world had healed the wounds on his soul, allowing his soul to feel very comfortable for a long time after he woke up. Until now, Lin Yuan still felt that there was a faint fragrance of the radish in the depths of his soul. However, Lin Yuan did not have a clue about the radish. Lin Yuan sighed as he looked at the blue flash purple butterfly sleeping soundly. Lin Yuan was not sighing for the blue flash purple butterfly but for himself. He was not confident that he could comprehend a willpower rune that was suitable for the blue flash purple butterfly. It could be said that Lin Yuan did not know what kind of willpower rune was suitable for the blue flash purple butterfly. Lin Yuan's spiritual spatial zone still had a willpower rune that he had comprehended during the massacre. This willpower rune was the second willpower rune that Lin Yuan had comprehended. At first, Lin Yuan had wanted this willpower rune for Red Thorn. However, after watching the withering of the Radiant Moon Palace's silver stamen gold luster Kasha, Lin Yuan had comprehended a willpower rune that was more suitable for Red Thorn. This massacre willpower rune left Lin Yuan empty. It could be said that as long as he fused this massacre willpower rune with the blue flash purple butterfly, Morbius would instantly become a fantasy breed. This made Lin Yuan, who had no clue about the blue flash purple butterfly's compatible willpower rune, have an impulse. However, after having this impulse, Lin Yuan decisively suppressed this irrational impulse. He knew that if he really did that, he would let the blue flash purple butterfly fuse with the massacre willpower rune that was not compatible with it. Not only would Lin Yuan be irresponsible to himself, but it would also mean that he had violated the original intention of contracting the blue flash purple butterfly and destroyed it. Lin Yuan frowned and pondered. There were spiritual ingredients in this world that could assist in comprehending willpower runes. However, he had always been very confident in his speed of comprehending willpower runes and had never been tempted by such precious spiritual ingredients. Moreover, Lin Yuan also had such spiritual ingredients that could assist in comprehending willpower runes. For example, the flowing cloud beeswax pendant that Lin Yuan wore with the extreme token could conduct spirit chi quickly. It allowed Lin Yuan to use the spiritual power in his body to instantly stimulate the moonlight territory in the extreme token. It could also stimulate Lin Yuan's spirit and soul in the depths of his mind. It allowed Lin Yuan's spirit and soul to be in the clearest state at all times, increasing his ability to comprehend willpower runes. Now, Lin Yuan felt that if there was a chance in the future, he should collect more spiritual ingredients that could assist in comprehending willpower runes. The flowing cloud beeswax pendant that his master, the Moon Empress, had given him could be considered an excellent item that could subtly increase his comprehension of willpower. It was enough for a person to only wear one type of spiritual ingredient that could assist in comprehending willpower. If he wore too many, it would excessively stimulate his spirit and soul, and it would have the opposite effect. Although Lin Yuan no longer needed spiritual ingredients that could assist in comprehending willpower, he felt that he should collect more things that could indirectly enhance a spirit chi professional's potential. He had also prepared one for Chu Ci, Wen Yu and Lu Jie. However, with just this thought, Lin Yuan knew that he was thinking too much. Chu Ci had acknowledged Cold Moon as her master, Wen Yu had acknowledged Mystic Moon as her master, and Lu Jie had acknowledged the chief guard of the spirit guards as his master. Presumably, Chu Ci, Wen Yu, and Lu Jie had similar items that could increase their comprehension of willpower. End of this chapter. Chapter 726. Even so, Lin Yuan felt that it was still necessary for him to collect these spiritual ingredients. This kind of spiritual ingredient, which was equivalent to increasing a spirit chi professional's talent, would be useful sooner or later. After withdrawing his thoughts, Lin Yuan walked to the twin red pagoda and used the day and night spirit silver's feathers to cut off all the vines that had just been nurtured. Then Lin Yuan took an exquisite jade square basin and placed the revival soil and wood nurturing clay inside. He also buried a lot of energy ores in the revival soil and wood nurturing clay. Then Lin Yuan planted the newly nurtured soldier rations in the exquisite jade square basin. Looking at the soldier rations planted in the exquisite jade square basin, Lin Yuan poured enough grasswood spring water into it. He only stopped when the grasswood spring water had filled the exquisite jade square basin. Then Lin Yuan looked at the other half of the old stake that had been broken off from the soldier rations vine. This old stake was nearly 15 centimeters long. A 3-centimeter-old stake could grow roots under the life-form Silent Fire and grow into a soldier rations vine. Lin Yuan would definitely not waste this 15-centimeter-long old stake. Lin Yuan divided this 15-centimeter-old stake into 5 equal parts according to the previous steps of nurturing the soldier rations vine. This time, Lin Yuan was very careful and did not get hit by the rapidly growing vines again when using the soldier rations vine to roast the life-form sacrificial fire. Under Lin Yuan's busy work, the old stake that had been broken off quickly grew into 6 soldier rations vines. Looking at the soldier rations vines and the 6 exquisite jade square basins, Lin Yuan's face revealed a satisfied expression. If there was a war, these 6 soldier rations vines would be even more precious than the island whale. Such precious foundation-level resources had been obtained under Lin Yuan's manipulation. Although the soldier rations vine's old stake was very small, there were still 6 living soldier rations vines. It was 6 times more than the Sun family's. Next, Lin Yuan only needed to wait for these separated soldier rations vines to grow a little, and then he would start to strengthen them. Lin Yuan had been woken up by Lu Jia when he was sleeping. After dealing with the matter, Lin Yuan continued to work hard in the spirit lock spatial zone for an unknown period of time. Now Lin Yuan's eyes were very sore and he could not open them. After exiting the spirit lock spatial zone, Lin Yuan immediately collapsed on the bed and fell into a deep sleep. When Lin Yuan woke up the next day, he felt that his throat was a little dry, so he scratched his head awkwardly. It seemed that he must have been very tired last night as he snored quite heavily. After waking up, Lin Yuan suddenly thought of something and slapped his forehead. He had promised the mother of Bloodbath to brew blood grapes and those dead fantasy breed fays. However, since he had entered the spirit lock spatial zone yesterday, he had been wholeheartedly focused on the soldier's rations. After strengthening the soldier grain radish, he was too tired and forgot about it. After entering the spirit lock spatial zone, he summoned the sacred sword-wielding queen. He allowed the sacred sword-hugging queen to absorb the willpower from the fantasy breed corpses that filled up almost half of the spirit lock spatial zone. The holy sword-wielding princess fluttered her skirt and danced. 20 silk threads shot out from Luo Kun and pierced into the bodies of 20 dead fantasy breed fays. He began to extract the willpower from these fantasy breed fays. He was used to seeing the princess absorb law crystals and law source crystals. Now that he saw her absorb willpower, he was already used to it. Lin Yuan waved his hand and summoned the heaven and earth fay, the blood brew grapevine from the leaf-shaped diamond fay storage box. Looking at the wild growth of the blood brew grapevine, Lin Yuan felt that the blood brew grapevine could be considered the happiest fay. Every day it would have an inexhaustible supply of flesh and blood energy. Right now, the blood brew grapevine was so extravagant that every vine that bore blood brew grapes had 2 auxiliary vines growing out of it. The 2 auxiliary vines wrapped around the vines that produced the blood brew grapes and helped the vines to support the weight of the blood brew grapes. Such wanton consumption of flesh and blood energy to produce 2 auxiliary vines could be said to be extravagant. Although Lin Yuan felt that it was a waste for the blood brew grapevine to wantonly consume the flesh and blood energy in Red Thorn's Eye of Relinquish, he would not make any adjustments to the blood brew grapevine. The blood brew grapevine was currently growing in the most comfortable way and supplying nutrients to every part of its body. It was not specially arranged and pruned by others just to produce blood brew grapes. The 2 auxiliary vines would help the vines that produced the blood brew grapes as long as there was enough flesh and blood energy to support it. The blood brew grapes would be about twice the size of the original blood brew grapes without the 2 auxiliary vines. With the increase in size, the flesh and blood energy contained in the blood brew grapevine would naturally multiply. However, the cycle of the blood brew grapevine's blood brew grapes did not change. This was equivalent to using another method to shorten the growth cycle of the blood brew grapes. In any case, Lin Yuan had a diamond fay storage box of the gold water world dimensional lifeforms flesh and blood. Even if the blood brew grapevine wantonly squandered, as long as Red Thorn's grade did not increase. A diamond fay storage box's water world dimensional life form, red flesh thorn, would never be finished within a year. When Lin Yuan had transplanted the blood brew grapevine, he had built a new vine frame for it. The vine frame that Lin Yuan had built for the blood brew grapevine was already very large. However, the blood brew grapevine's vines had already climbed up the vine frame, making it look full. After Lin Yuan plucked 4 bunches of ripe blood brew grapes that were as heavy as rubies, he continued to add a few more wooden strips on the vine frame. He expanded the area of the vine frame. This allowed the blood brew grapevine to continue growing without restraint and strive to produce more blood brew grapes. After building the expanded vine frame, Lin Yuan plucked the old leaves from the blood brew grapevine. He planned to give them to the mother of bloodbath later. The blood brew grapevine's old leaves did not contain as much blood energy as the blood brew grapes. However, they still contained more blood energy than ordinary blood qi spiritual ingredients. If the mother of bloodbath wanted to increase its strength, it would not refuse any amount of blood energy. Furthermore, by plucking the blood brew grapevine's old leaves, it would allow the blood brew grapevine to distribute more nutrients to the new leaves. This would promote the blood brew grapevine's overall growth and allow the blood brew grapevine to ripen faster. After dealing with all these, Lin Yuan sent the blood brew grapevine back into the leaf-shaped diamond Fey storage box. At that moment, the princess had completely absorbed the willpower within the 20 dead fantasy breed phase. The willpower within the fantasy breed phase that were originally lying on the ground had been engraved into the princess skirt. Lin Yuan stored the dead fantasy breed phase and went to find the mother of bloodbath. End of this chapter. Chapter 727. He knocked on the door of the mother of bloodbath's room and found that it was not inside. He went to the training room on the 3rd floor that had been specially built for the mother of bloodbath and endless summer. Back then, Huquan had spent a lot of effort and resources to build specialized training rooms for the mother of bloodbath and endless summer. The walls of the training room were paved with radium uranium steel, the hardest of all diamond rank metals. The training room built with radium uranium steel allowed the mother of bloodbath and endless summer to display their strength to the fullest. When he arrived at the mother of bloodbath's training room, he found that the door was closed. He knocked on the door, and in less than 10 seconds, the mother of bloodbath opened the door in its human form. Since the mother of bloodbath was in the training room, it did not carry out any camouflage. Its red hair, red eyes, and red leather armor made it look exceptionally stunning. He had seen the mother of bloodbath's form many times. It could even be said that he was the first person to see the mother of bloodbath transform into a human. After all, he had helped the mother of bloodbath survive its second world cleansing. When the mother of bloodbath saw that it was Lin Yuan who knocked on the door, it opened the training room's door completely. It's rare that you don't stay in your room and come out for a walk. Come on in. Lin Yuan listened to the mother of bloodbath's words and could not help but feel a little embarrassed. He was merely working hard in the spirit lock spatial zone, and he seemed to have been mistaken as a nerd. When he entered the mother of bloodbath's training room, he found many holes on the surface of the radium uranium steel on the walls. He took a closer look and found that these holes did not look like they were caused by the stings on the mother of bloodbath's legs. Instead, they looked more like the bite marks of a snake's teeth. This was because the holes on the radium uranium steel walls were arranged in groups of 2, and they were symmetrically concave. Upon seeing Lin Yuan looking at the hole in the radium uranium steel wall, the mother of bloodbath explained. The 3 bronze/legend red water blood snakes you gave me previously have all been refined into external blood bones. While speaking, a huge amount of blood energy emerged from the mother of bloodbath's body. Immediately afterward, 3 snake-shaped shadows appeared behind the mother of bloodbath. The 3 crimson snake-shaped shadows surrounded the mother of bloodbath, as if they were protecting it, but also like shadow assassins waiting for an opportunity to kill their prey at any time. Immediately afterward, the mother of bloodbath's eyes flickered with a terrifying red glow, and the 3 snake shadows turned into 3 scarlet snakes that were nearly 15 meters long. These 3 scarlet snakes looked very different from the original scarlet water blood snakes. Each snake's head had a sword horn that looked like a sharp blade. The snake scales on its body were like bone protrusions the size of a fist, looking full of power. There were also several sharp stingers on its tail. Lin Yuan looked at the 3 15-meter-long red water blood snakes and knew that the sword horns on the snakes' heads were evidence of the nightmare bloodline. Clearly, when the 3 red water blood snakes were transformed into the mother of bloodbath's external blood bones, they had completely stimulated the qi bloodline in their bodies. As the mother of bloodbath's external blood bones, the 3 red water blood snakes were injected with the mother of bloodbath's spider teeth, which were equivalent to being injected with the mother of bloodbath's bloodline. The fusion of the mother of bloodbath's bloodline and the nightmare bloodline finally formed these 3 terrifying red water blood snakes. Lin Yuan hurriedly congratulated the mother of bloodbath. These 3 red water blood snakes refined from the external blood bones should have reached the strength of a myth breed, right? The 3 red water blood snakes refined by the mother of bloodbath with its external blood bones were equivalent to a part of the mother of bloodbath's abilities. Therefore, Lin Yuan could not accurately check it using true data. When the mother of bloodbath heard Lin Yuan's words, a trace of joy appeared on its cold face. It said happily, "Thanks to you, these 3 red water blood snakes have been promoted from bronze to legend. Otherwise, the nightmare bloodline would never have completely awakened when it fused with my spider teeth. Instead, it would have suppressed the bloodline in my body." At this point, the mother of bloodbath's expression became faintly disdainful. The nightmare is considered a type of dragon species bloodline, and the hornless dragon also has the qualifications to become a main dragon species. However, the nightmare bloodline is still a little inferior to mine. Now, the 3 red water blood snakes refined from the external blood bones can reach my own strength. However, I didn't expect to need to consume more blood energy after activating the myth breed's exclusive skill, external blood bones. Moreover, in the process of increasing my strength, the 3 red water blood snakes refined from the external blood bones need to increase at the same time as my strength. At this point, the mother of bloodbath looked at Lin Yuan with a complicated expression. In other words, I need to consume 4 times the blood energy to increase my strength in the future. Now, it seems that even increasing my strength to Myth 3 can be considered a big problem, let alone becoming a creation breed. When Lin Yuan heard the mother of bloodbath's words, he did not feel melancholy. Instead, he was exceptionally surprised. In other words, after refining the 3 red water blood snakes, your exclusive skill, external blood bones, has 4 times the strength before. Every red water blood snake has the same combat power as you? The mother of bloodbath nodded in response. The mother of bloodbath raised its hand, and the 3 red water blood snakes refined from the external blood bones turned from corporeal to blood-colored shadows. You can say that, but the red water blood snakes only have my melee ability. They are considered an extension of my body. These 3 red water blood snakes can't use my own abilities and exclusive skills. Upon hearing the mother of bloodbath's words, Lin Yuan felt that it did not affect him at all. He knew how strong the mother of bloodbath's melee ability was. In normal battles, the mother of bloodbath's abilities were either to control the blood in the opponent's body to play a certain killing and control role, or to increase its own strength. When the mother of bloodbath really fought, it still relied more on its body. Now that the mother of bloodbath's individual combat power had greatly increased, Lin Yuan felt that it was completely appropriate even if it needed to consume 3 times more resources than before. The stronger the mother of bloodbath's individual strength, the higher its chances of successfully surviving the world cleansing and the creation tribulation. Moreover, the heaven and earth fey blood brew grapevine grew wildly and could produce enough blood brew grapes. With a large supply of blood brew grapes, the mother of bloodbath could always successfully advance to Myth 3. As for the mother of bloodbath's need for the power of law after advancing to Myth 3, Lin Yuan felt that it was not impossible to collect it through his hard work. Lin Yuan asked the mother of bloodbath again. If I advance to Myth 3, will the consumption of the power of law also double? End of this chapter. Chapter 728. The mother of bloodbath nodded and then shook its head. The power of the law indeed needs to be doubled because each red water blood snake refined by the external blood bone has 1/3 of the blood law energy imprint in its body. If you want to evolve into a creation breed, the power of the law in the 3-tailed red water blood snake's law energy imprint also needs to be enhanced. However, compared to blood energy, the power of the law after advancing to Myth 3 doesn't need to be 3 times more than before. It only needs to be twice as much. Lin Yuan nodded. Each of the 3-tailed red water blood snakes refined by the external blood bone had 1/3 of the blood law imprint in their body. The 3 tails added up was exactly the complete blood law, which just happened to be twice as much as before. He had asked the princess to purify a portion of the law crystal for the mother of bloodbath to become a creation breed from the law crystals and law source crystals in preparation. Purifying 2 portions was also in preparation. Lin Yuan clenched his fists and said firmly, "I'll try to prepare the power of the law you need to become a creation breed before you advance to Myth 3. Lin Yuan's words made the mother of bloodbath's expression suddenly stifled, and it felt incredulous. The mother of bloodbath knew best how much power of the law it needed to become a creation breed. Even the Moon Empress would not easily promise such power of the law. However, after being Lin Yuan's path protector for so long, the mother of bloodbath knew that Lin Yuan never lied. He would definitely be able to do what he said. Looking at Lin Yuan's firm eyes, the mother of bloodbath's heart couldn't help but feel warm. The mother of bloodbath realized that it had not helped Lin Yuan out of danger many times as his path protector, but it was accepting Lin Yuan's kindness almost all the time. From the moment he moved into the mansion, Lin Yuan had never been stingy with the spiritual materials he needed to improve his strength. The mother of Bloodbath did not even remember how much the spiritual materials needed to improve its strength had cost. Moreover, the mother of Bloodbath's current strength improvement and the three-tailed red water blood snakes refined by the external blood bone were all thanks to Lin Yuan. Now, Lin Yuan was determined to build a path to the heavens for himself. Before the mother of Bloodbath could speak, Lin Yuan placed 2 Fey storage boxes on its hand. Lin Yuan said to the mother of Bloodbath, "One of the Fey storage boxes contains the 20 dead fantasy breed Feys, while the other contains the Blood Brew Grapevine's first batch of Blood Brew grapes and its old leaves. Take it and use it first. I'll send you the next batch of Blood Brew grapes after they ripen." After saying that, Lin Yuan left the bloodbath and left. Lin Yuan said, "I'll give it to you." After Lin Yuan established faction Sky City Bath and started Lin Yuan God and God. However, the feeling of earning money to support an entire force was actually not bad. After Lin he said the bloodbath the Fey storage box. God. 1 Lin fantasy. After Lin Yuan left, the mother of Bloodbath picked up one of the Fey storage boxes to check. The mother Cha. When King, the mother of the spirit, mother of Fedbath's spirit, it. However, when the mother of Bloodbath checked the contents of the other Fey storage box, it froze on the spot. Looking at Lin Yuan's disappearing figure, the mother of Bloodbath felt for the first time that Lin Yuan's figure was broad and full of strength. This feeling made the mother of Bloodbath feel a little strange. It was true that it felt close to Lin Yuan, but as a suzerain 7/Myth 2 Fey, its strength had been enhanced today. Why did it feel a sense of security from Lin Yuan? This sense of security made the spider feel at ease. Not to mention the fact that these 4 bunches of grapes were astonishingly large. The blood energy contained within each grape was like a stream of blood energy. Just the blood energy contained in those 200+ old Blood Brew grapevine leaves was enough to raise the mother of Bloodbath's strength visibly. The mother of Bloodbath, which had been using spiritual ingredients that contained blood energy, swore that it had never used spiritual ingredients that contained so much blood energy. The blood energy contained in these 4 bunches of Blood Brew grapes and over 200 old Blood Brew grapevine leaves was comparable to the blood energy in the Dark Sea blood mosquito that had helped him advance to Myth 2. At this rate, he only needed another 12 to 13 portions of the Blood Brew grapes and Blood Brew grapevine's old leaves that Lin Yuan had given him today to successfully reach Myth 3. The mother of Bloodbath suddenly felt that it was not as difficult to advance to Myth 3 after using the external blood bone to refine 3 scarlet water blood snakes. However, to the mother of Bloodbath, the faster it improved its strength, the better. Because only by becoming stronger would he be able to better fulfill his responsibilities as a path protector. However, when it thought of the path protector's duty, the mother of Bloodbath somehow recalled Lin Yuan's reassuring sense of security. Lin Yuan left the mother of Bloodbath's training room and was about to return to his room when he saw Duan He standing at the door. When Lin Yuan saw Duan He pacing at the door of his room, it was obvious that something was waiting for him. Lin Yuan walked up and asked Duan He, "Senior Duan He, where is Senior Violet Demon?" In Lin Yuan's impression, Duan He and Violet Demon had always been inseparable. Duan He scratched his head a little awkwardly. Violet Demon's personality in the Dark Element Skull was too sickly. Staying with Violet Demon made Duan He feel a lot of pressure. Last night, Violet Demon had a dream, in which he seemed to have peeked at other female snakes. Ever since Violet Demon had woken up from her dream, she had given him a beating. Now she was still treating him coldly. What kind of suffering was this? However, he had to dote on this wife that he had been looking forward to for decades. Duan He walked up to Lin Yuan, took out a Fey storage box and 2 brocade pouches that were filled to the brim, and handed them to Lin Yuan. "Young master, didn't you ask me to help you collect the Law Origin crystals? Coincidentally, Indigo Azure Guard Elder Xing contacted me 2 days ago. He wanted me to go to Indigo Azure City to help clean up the dimensional rift outside the city, but I refused. When I refused, I also probed about exchanging the Law Origin crystals. In the end, I only offered a chance to enhance Phase to Bronze/Epic. The Indigo Azure Guard Elder, Xing Jiu, immediately agreed to exchange 3 Law Origin crystals for 1 Bronze/Epic Fade. At that time, Young Master said that 1 Law Origin crystal could be exchanged for a Bronze/Epic Fade. When I saw that the price was 3 times lower than Young Master's offer, I immediately decided. End of this chapter. Chapter 729. Duan He raised the brocade pouch in his hand and said, "There are 60 Law Source crystals in each of these 2 brocade pouches. There are 60 Law Source crystals in each of these 2 brocade pouches." That's a total of 120 in total. Indigo Azure Guard Elder Xing also sent 40 bronze/epic phase. I just happened to send them to Young Master. After sending them to Young Master, I have to hurry back to the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce. Purple Demon and Endless Summer are overseeing it. The three of us carried out a major purge of the Zheng family's forces last night, including the 2 Zheng family chambers of commerce and a mercenary group that we didn't touch before. Lin Yuan took the face storage box and brocade pouch from Duan He. He had ordered Endless Summer and Duan He to clean up all the Zheng family's businesses in the royal capital. It was also considered revenge for the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's spirit chi professionals who had died at the hands of the Zheng family. The Zheng family and the Miao family's forces were not in the royal capital, which was Lin Yuan's territory. Since Lin Yuan was destined to have a big conflict with the Zheng family, it was very necessary to clean up the enemy forces in his territory before the conflict started. If the Miao family joined the battle later and Endless Summer became a creation breed, Lin Yuan would also order Endless Summer to clean up the Miao family's forces in the royal capital. Lin Yuan would also order Endless Summer to clean up the Miao family's forces in the royal capital. The reason Lin Yuan did not let Endless Summer attack the Miao family's forces now was that he was not sure if there were experts guarding the Miao family's businesses in the royal capital. Therefore, Lin Yuan would not let Endless Summer risk her life and attack the Miao family without knowing the enemy's strength. In the past, Lin Yuan had mostly been more passive. After experiencing 2 attacks with the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce as the main battlefield, Lin Yuan's mentality had changed. In Lin Yuan's opinion, being passive would only allow one to be beaten. When it was time to attack, he had to take the initiative. After all, it was either one of them dying in a battle between factions, and there was no room for contempt or carelessness. Lin Yuan was pleasantly surprised that Duan He had brought him 120 Law Source crystals and 40 phase waiting to be enhanced to bronze/epic. Ever since Lin Yuan had asked Duan He to help him collect Law Source crystals, Duan He would occasionally help him collect a few. However, the number in the past was only 2 or 3, far less than this time. The top factions did not have the most Law Source crystals in the world, but the Radiance Federation's 36 main cities. In particular, the guard captain of the main city's city guard, Zhu Li, had the best chance of collecting a large number of Law Origin crystals. After hundreds of years, the major cities, the city guard captain, the Pearl Dimensional captain, the guard captain, had accumulated countless Law Source guards. However, Lin Yuan did not have many connections with the main city's guards. Duan He had been helping out the Indigo Azure Guards in Indigo Azure City all year round, so he should be on good terms with the Indigo Azure Guard captain. Otherwise, it would be impossible for Duan He to do business with the officials. Guards was the guards. With guards. Of guards and Dao God. Faction of sect guards of the demons. The sect who of 2 crystals of 1 have brothers. If the Law Origin crystals that were gathering dust in the warehouse could be converted into bronze/epic phase, not only could they increase the overall strength of the Indigo Azure Guards, but they could also increase the overall strength of the Indigo Azure Guards. Crystals of masters. Lin Yuan and Du Immortal Nursery had also traded with the Blissful Sea clan. However, it was 1 bronze/epic fey in exchange for 1. The Indigo Azure Guard captain's offer was 3 times that of Lin Yuan and Du Immortal Nursery's deal with the Blissful Sea clan. If Lin Yuan could maintain such a deal with the Indigo Azure Guard for a long time, the Law Source crystals that contain pure power of law would be 3 times faster than before. The Mother of Bloodbath's problem of needing double the power of law to refine the blood bone would be solved. Senior Duan He, did the Indigo Azure Guard captain set a date for the deal? Duan He asked awkwardly. Old Xing doesn't believe everything I say, but I've been in Indigo Azure City for so many years, and I have a lot of face. In addition, I told Old Xing that Purple Demon had successfully reached Myth 2. That's why he was willing to bring the Law Source crystals in advance. However, Old Xing said he hopes to get this batch of bronze/epic phase 2 months before the Dimensional Rift closes to reduce the pressure on the Indigo Azure Guard during the closing phase of the Dimensional Rift. Duan He was speechless. This Old Xing was also a scammer. There were less than 4 months before the active phase of the Dimensional Rift. It was too hasty to get an order for 40 bronze/epic phase in a little over a month. Upon hearing Duan He's words, Lin Yuan was rather excited. He smiled and said to Duan He, Senior Duan He, please make another trip in 2 days. When the time comes, help me deliver this batch of epic phase to the Indigo Azure Guard captain and help me tell him that I look forward to working with him again. Lin Yuan's words made Duan He think that he had misheard. Why did Duan He feel that enhancing a bronze/epic Fae was as easy as when Purple Demon had hit him? It was unknown how many King-class experts wanted to nurture a bronze/epic Fae but were unable to do so. At that moment, Lin Yuan thought of something. With a flip of his hand, a huge blue and white porcelain jar appeared in his hand. Lin Yuan said as he handed the porcelain jar to Duan He. "Senior Duan He, the spirit siphon goldfish that I promised you before." Duan He looked at the spirit siphon goldfish in the porcelain jar, and his eyes were about to fall to the ground. It had only been a few days and the spirit siphon goldfish, which was harder to enhance and grade than normal phase, had been enhanced. Duan He couldn't help but feel that it was really cool to have a big tree to lean on. This feeling was simply awesome. Chilling to the heart and soaring to the sky. With this bronze/legend spirit siphon goldfish's primordial spirit conversion and the thunderhorn sky rumbling conch, Purple Demon could assist Purple Demon. With the enhanced endurance, Purple Demon could freely use elemental energy to bombard a large area and didn't need to worry about the spiritual power consumption in its body. Duan He felt that if he had this spirit siphon goldfish earlier, he would have been able to accumulate a considerable amount of wealth even if he used bricks in the dimensional rift to nurture Purple Demon. After sending off Duan He and returning to his room, Lin Yuan entered the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone again and prepared to work hard. After entering the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone, Lin Yuan released the 40 Faes that needed to be enhanced from the Fae storage box. Lin Yuan realized that the 40 Faes were all the same. They were all standard healing type Faes, the Hot Spring Slug. The Hot Spring Slug was a healing type Fae, and its healing ability was only effective on external injuries. Although its healing ability was monotonous, its healing ability on external injuries was astonishing. End of this chapter. Chapter 730. The Hot Spring Slugs had become standard phase because they had a very special point. As long as it was a healing type Spirit Chi professional, even if the healing type Spirit Chi professional had a special affinity with certain phase, they could still form a contract with the Hot Spring Slug. This was very similar to Hu Quan's contracted Vitality Sloth. The Indigo Azure Guard's orders were all Hot Spring Slugs that had a strong healing ability on external injuries. This also showed how dangerous it was for the Indigo Azure Guards to clean dimensional rifts. The Indigo Azure Guards and the Spirit Guards of the Spirit Guards were the same. However, the Spirit Guards dealt with all the vicious incidents in the Radiance Federation and looked more legendary. On the other hand, the Indigo Azure Guards had been guarding the people in Indigo Azure City for generations. Both were essentially the same and equally great. Lin Yuan was determined to nurture this batch of Hot Spring Slugs well. Although he thought so, he regretted summoning 40 Hot Spring Slugs at once. The Hot Spring Slugs had a nice name but they looked really ugly. They were like colored snot that was crazily swinging on the ground. After crawling slowly, they would leave behind sticky water on the ground. Lin Yuan stored the 40 Hot Spring Slugs in the Fae storage box. At that moment, Lin Yuan walked to the spirit pool and found that the first batch of 11 Reflection Sun King Lotus seedlings had grown from the size of a fingernail to the size of a watermelon. These Reflection Sun King Lotuses that had been divided had officially become normal I/normal heaven and earth phase under true data. Lin Yuan was prepared to enhance these Reflection Sun King Lotuses. After enhancing them to bronze, he could put them into the underground space's construction. When Lin Yuan picked up the Reflection Sun King Lotus and injected Spirit Chi into it, everything was very real. There was nothing strange. However, when he enhanced the Reflection Sun King Lotus all the way to bronze, he found that it gave him a huge amount of spiritual power in one go. This allowed the total amount of spiritual power in his body to increase by a lot. When Lin Yuan enhanced phase and raised their quality, there was no spiritual power feedback. Only when raising the grade of the Fae would Lin Yuan receive the corresponding spiritual power feedback and increase the amount of spiritual power in his body. However, during this period of time he had been setting up Sky City strategy and collecting large amounts of resources, so he simply did not have the time to rely on upgrading the bronze Usnias to silver to slowly increase his spiritual power like before. This caused the spiritual power in Lin Yuan's body to stagnate. However, such a shocking change had occurred when he was enhancing the Heaven and Earth Fae, the Sun Reflection King Lotus. Lin Yuan made a rough estimation in his heart. Enhancing this Reflection Sun King Lotus would increase the amount of Spirit Chi in his body, which would be equivalent to the total amount of Spirit Chi feedback from around 70 bronze Usnias to silver. He hurriedly picked up another Reflection Sun King Lotus seedling and enhanced it. As a result, after the Reflection Sun King Lotus was upgraded to bronze grade, it still provided Lin Yuan with a large amount of spiritual power. While he smirked, he could not help but wonder why such a situation had occurred. There was no way he could ask someone else about such a question. Unless there was a second person in the world like him, who could rely on his body to absorb the surrounding spirit chi, compress the surrounding spirit chi, and inject it into the Fae's body to induce the Fae to evolve. Lin Yuan had obtained many heaven and earth Faes. The cinnabar Osmanthus haworthia, the twin red pagoda, the phoenix perching Chinese parasol tree, the floating island whale, gray, which had transformed from a cloud crane to a sky cloud crane, the blood brew grapevine, and the reflection sun king lotus were the heaven and earth Faes that Lin Yuan now possessed. Apart from the floating island whale that had yet to hatch, gray, and the 99 reflection sun king lotuses that Lin Yuan had. The other heaven and earth Faes were already of very high grade after Lin Yuan had obtained them. Lin Yuan did not have the opportunity to upgrade those heaven and earth Faes grades. He guessed that after he upgraded them, the heaven and earth Faes would provide him with more spiritual power than ordinary Faes. Or perhaps only the heaven and earth Fae, the reflection sun king lotus, had such an effect. It was easy for Lin Yuan to verify all of this. According to the current state of Gray's eggshell, the feathers on the surface of the evolving Gray's eggshell were already a little loose. It seemed that Gray should be breaking out of the shell soon. At that time, Lin Yuan only needed to enhance Gray to confirm his opinion. Lin Yuan still had 97 heaven and earth Faes, the reflection sun king lotus seedlings, that could be upgraded. Sensing the spirit chi content in his body, Lin Yuan felt that he would be able to successfully become a B-rank spirit chi professional after enhancing about 80 heaven and earth Faes, the reflection sun king lotus. Lin Yuan did not know how long he had been looking forward to this. Putting aside the fact that once he became a B-rank spirit chi professional, the Faes he could control would be upgraded to platinum. If he could upgrade them, it would not be impossible for him to have a diamond/fantasy breed Fae. This way, his strength would be able to obtain an unprecedented increase. Moreover, the upgrade of the spirit chi professional's grade was equivalent to speeding up the speed of Lin Yuan's body injecting spirit chi into the Fae's bodies. After becoming a B-rank spirit chi professional, Lin Yuan would not need dozens of minutes to enhance Faes to bronze/epic. This would greatly improve Lin Yuan's work efficiency and multiply his speed of accumulating resources. To be honest, Lin Yuan's body was already a little overwhelmed by the fact that he was cooperating with the Dew Immortal Garden, the Sea of Bliss, and the Indigo Azure Guard at the same time. Following this transaction with the Indigo Azure Guard would likely expand the scale of their transactions. At that time, it would be very difficult for Lin Yuan to take down the Indigo Azure Guard's orders. However, Lin Yuan still could not cut off the cooperation with the Dew Immortal Garden and the Sea of Bliss. Although the Indigo Azure Guard would give more abundant resources, Lin Yuan could not guarantee that the Indigo Azure Guard would stop the transaction with him one day. It was always good to have more opportunities. Moreover, Lin Yuan still planned to empty the veteran faction, the Sea of Bliss. After thinking about it again and again, Lin Yuan felt that he could put other things aside first. The most important thing was to increase his strength to a B-rank spirit chi professional. Previously, Lin Yuan had always felt that the path from a C-rank spirit chi professional to a B-rank spirit chi professional was very far, and he did not know when he could complete the promotion. But now Lin Yuan had accidentally found a shortcut, and it was right in front of him. Lin Yuan had to grab the shortcut no matter what. Lin Yuan continued to enhance the remaining 9 reflection sun king lotuses in the spirit pool to bronze. Then he stored the 9 reflection sun king lotuses and the 2 that he had enhanced previously into the amber button-shaped diamond face storage box. End of this chapter. Chapter 731. Then he took out a new batch of reflection sun king lotuses. However, the new batch of reflection sun king lotuses were only the size of a fingernail. If they wanted to become Faes, they would need the nourishment of pure spirit chi. Lin Yuan immediately circulated the spiritual power in his body and nurtured them one by one. He first nurtured the fingernail-sized reflection sun king lotuses into watermelon-sized normal Faes before nurturing them all the way to bronze grade. The process of nurturing them into Faes would consume a lot of time. However, Lin Yuan didn't need to raise the quality of the reflection sun king lotuses to bronze grade. Therefore, in around 25 minutes, a young reflection sun king lotus would be able to evolve from a young Fae to bronze grade. In fact, Lin Yuan could choose to upgrade the bronze reflection sun king lotus to silver grade. This would speed up Lin Yuan's advancement as a spirit chi professional. However, Lin Yuan thought for a moment and held back. After entering the Celestial Council and understanding Bei Su's life, Lin Yuan's horizons had broadened. In Lin Yuan's opinion, the Reflection Sun King Lotus was no longer a simple heaven and earth fae that he could use as a small sun in the underground space. In this world, apart from the prosperous Radiance continent, where the Radiance Federation was located, other continents had underground worlds that couldn't see the light. In such a world, the heaven and earth spiritual treasure, the Sun Reflection Monarch Lotus, could be called the most precious thing. Therefore Lin Yuan decided to upgrade his 99 Reflection Sun King Lotuses from bronze grade to legend and then enhance them step by step. With the 99 Reflection Sun King Lotuses evolution, Lin Yuan had already decided to collect more heaven and earth phase. Lin Yuan felt that his Spirit Chi professional grade was about to accelerate and take off. Seeing that Lin Yuan was focused on nurturing phase, Genius and Chimey would sensibly pluck a few leaves from the soldier ration radish every once in a while and feed them to Lin Yuan. They allowed Lin Yuan to replenish some nutrients and water. At that moment Lin Yuan had worked for a full 32 hours without sleep or rest. Just as Lin Yuan upgraded the 83rd Reflection Sun King Lotus to bronze grade, he suddenly felt the thick, mist-like spirit chi in his body rapidly tremble. The thick, mist-like spirit chi gathered together, and more mist-like spirit chi surged in Lin Yuan's body. As the mist-like spiritual energy continued to gather, a rain of spiritual power slowly began to fall. When the spirit chi rain in Lin Yuan's body stopped, the originally viscous spirit chi turned into a crystal clear spirit chi liquid in Lin Yuan's body. When the atomized spirit chi in Lin Yuan's body transformed into spirit chi liquid, it also indicated that Lin Yuan had become a true B-rank spirit chi professional. After becoming a B-rank spirit chi professional, Lin Yuan let out a breath of turbid air. Lin Yuan could keenly sense that when he circulated the spiritual power in his body, the amount of spiritual power in his body was more than 10 times stronger than before. When he sensed the spiritual power content in his body, he finally realized that when he had fought with the B-rank spirit chi professionals in the Star Tower, his spiritual power had increased. Why were B-rank spirit chi professionals wantonly commanding phase to release abilities without any restraint? If he had so much spiritual power in his body, he wouldn't have to be so meticulous with every strand of spiritual power in battle. Of course, it was absolutely beneficial for him to fight above his rank for a long time. It was a habit that Lin Yuan would meticulously calculate every strand of spiritual power he used. This habit was something that spirit chi professionals who fought with same-grade opponents for a long time were both envious of and unable to develop. Lin Yuan circulated his spiritual power for a while and found that the spirit chi in the spirit lock spatial zone was obviously gathering toward him. Lin Yuan was speechless. The speed at which his body absorbed spiritual power could already affect the flow of spirit chi in the spirit lock spatial zone. Lin Yuan took out a hot spring slug from the face storage box and channeled the spiritual power in his body into the hot spring slug. As a result, Lin Yuan found that these hot spring slugs' grades were rising at a rocket-like speed. The 40 hot spring slugs that the Indigo Azure Guards used for trading were all normal. Therefore, when Lin Yuan enhanced these hot spring slugs, he had to choose exclusive skills for them. Lin Yuan raised the hot spring slug's grade to elite/epic. Then, when it reached bronze, he chose one of the 3 exclusive skills that were most suitable for treating external injuries on the battlefield. Only then did he upgrade this hot spring slug to bronze X/epic. The deal between Lin Yuan and the Blissful Sea Tribe and the Sun family was to upgrade the phase grade to epic quality, and the phase grades would no longer be increased. However, Lin Yuan did not make any exception and upgraded all the hot spring slugs that the Indigo Azure Guard sent over to bronze X/epic. This was also Lin Yuan's way of showing his appreciation to the Indigo Azure City's Indigo Azure Guards. After a series of enhancements, Lin Yuan found that it took him less than 10 minutes to upgrade a hot spring slug from normal I/normal to bronze X/epic. Based on this speed, Lin Yuan could be sure that his current speed of enhancing phase was about 8 times faster than before. It would now take Lin Yuan less than a day to enhance a bronze/epic phase. Lin Yuan originally thought that he would not be able to enhance the hot spring slugs in time for his agreement with Duan He, so he was prepared to use a spirit chi crystal. After all, he was a man of his word, and he could not easily go back on an agreement. But now, it seemed that there was no need to use the spirit chi crystal at all. After Lin Yuan finished enhancing 40 hot spring slugs, he only used a total of over 6 hours. After exiting the spirit lock spatial zone, Lin Yuan, who had not slept for nearly 2 days and 2 nights, placed the face storage box containing the hot spring slugs at the door of his room. He stuck a note on the face storage box for Duan He and fell into a deep sleep. While sleeping, Lin Yuan had a faintly discernible look of joy on his face, and the corners of his mouth were slightly curled up in his sleep. After becoming a B-rank spirit chi professional, Lin Yuan could quickly complete the orders with other factions and continue to spend more time on life like before. During this period of continuous busyness, Lin Yuan really felt that he was a little like a robot. After waking up, Lin Yuan took good care of himself. At the same time, he asked Chimey to cut his hair with its beak. Lin Yuan felt that his hair was a little too long during this period, and it was already past his ears. Over the years, Chimey had always been the one to take care of his hair. Moreover, Chimey's aesthetics were very good, and it was also very easy to cut his hair with its beak. After Chimey finished cutting Lin Yuan's hair, Lin Yuan looked at himself in the mirror and revealed his small white teeth. So handsome. End of this chapter. Chapter 732. After leaving the room and going downstairs, Lin Yuan found that the completely jade-textured pearwood table beside the water rhinoceros leather sofa was already full of papers. Stacked together, the pages almost reached the ceiling. Lin Yuan walked over and saw Wenyu, whose eyes had turned black behind the pile of papers. When Wenyu heard the sound, she looked up and saw Lin Yuan, who had cut his hair, and her spirit jolted. Wenyu wasn't a love-struck fool. She didn't even care about a person's appearance. However, when she saw Lin Yuan, who had cut his hair, she felt that it was hard for her to move her gaze away from him. Before getting a haircut, Lin Yuan's hair was past his ears, giving his youthful aura a hint of scholarly aura. But now he had cut his hair short above his ears. Lin Yuan's scholarly aura had transformed into a sunny vitality. Furthermore, Lin Yuan had a natural freshness that made people unconsciously have a good impression of him. Coupled with Lin Yuan's perfect facial features, it was truly impossible to shift one's eyes away. If looks could also be used in combat, even if Black's identity was a combat genius, he would not be able to defeat Black. However, the combat power of Lin Yuan's Black identity might not necessarily be as good as his looks. Upon seeing Lin Yuan walk over, Wenyu hurriedly stopped arranging the pages in her hands and said to Lin Yuan, "That's right. Young master, in the past 2 days I've not only sorted out the information on the Sun family's due immortal garden, but I've also sorted out the Sun family's due immortal garden. Regarding the Blissful Ocean tribe, the Miao family, and the Zheng family, I've also filtered and processed the information." As she spoke, Wenyu looked at the pile of papers in front of her and felt a little awkward. Using the source paper's exclusive skill, Heaven Listening Secret Manual, to gather information was akin to a paper rain. This torrential rain of paper lasted for more than 2 days. Under such circumstances, he would not be able to finish flipping through them in 2 days, let alone looking through them one by one. Wenyu shook her head, hoping to suppress the exhaustion from not sleeping for 3 days. "Young master, let me introduce the situation of the Sun family to you. The Sun family's situation is special. Although he could not finish reading the contents of the paper mountain in 2 days, they were all in her head. Normally, he would definitely be willing to discuss the situation between the major factions with her. Every time he discussed the situation of the major factions with Wenyu, her views on the operations between the factions would benefit him a lot. Just by looking at the bruises under her eyes, Lin Yuan knew that she had not rested since he had asked her to check on the Sun family's intelligence. He really could not bear to let Wenyu explain the Sun family's situation to him. "Wenyu, let's try to communicate in another way." After speaking, Lin Yuan said to Genius, who was in his embrace, "Smart, use the interconnected tail." After Genius received Lin Yuan's command, its snow-white fur suddenly turned sparkling and translucent. If Genius was said to be a cute white kitten previously, then every strand of fur on Genius' body now seemed to be carved from crystals. There was a faint silver flowing within the crystals. Then Genius' blue eyes turned vertical, and one of its 5 fluffy tails fell off from its body. Genius' tail that had fallen off stretched out and became a sparkling and translucent chain. One end of the bond was connected to Lin Yuan, while the other was connected to Wenyu. It had not been long since Genius became a fantasy breed, and it was Lin Yuan's first time using the interconnected tail after becoming a fantasy breed. Lin Yuan realized that Genius' exclusive skill, the interconnected tail, was not exactly the same as Morbius True Data. Although the effect was similar to True Data, there were some details that could not be displayed in written True Data. For example, the interconnected tail allowed the 2 sides to communicate with each other, but the information exchange authority at the 2 ends was different. The end of the interconnected tail that had fallen off from Genius was called the front end, and the back end was called the end. The front end of the interconnected tail could choose to share information or not to share information with the end. For example, if there was a plate in front of the person at the front end, the person at the front end could freely filter out the thoughts into the plate and pass it to the other end. Although the end could also choose, the choice was much smaller than the front end. The end could only choose whether to open up its thoughts for interaction and could not filter its own thoughts. At that moment, Lin Yuan, who was at the front end, had already received a large amount of information from Wen Yu's thoughts. Through the interconnected tail, Wen Yu and Lin Yuan's brains seemed to have fused together. Lin Yuan instantly grasped some information that was originally complicated and difficult to express. After getting hold of the intelligence that Wen Yu had sorted out in the past 3 days, he cut off the end of the connection and said to Wen Yu, "I already know about the Sun family and the latest movements of the Blissful Sea tribe, the Zheng family and the Miao family. You haven't rested well these past few days. Go get some sleep. It's been hard on you. You don't have to work so hard in the future." As the front end of the interconnection tail, Lin Yuan did not exchange any information with Wen Yu. Therefore, Wen Yu did not feel anything after choosing to exchange information with Lin Yuan. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Wen Yu was still a little confused. However, upon hearing that Lin Yuan had grasped the information, Wen Yu was ready to take a good rest. The long hours of fatigue and the high concentration of collecting information made Wen Yu feel a little dizzy when she thought about problems. After Wen Yu returned to her room, Lin Yuan turned to look at Genius. "Smart, do you think I'm handsome?" As the terminal, Wen Yu was exchanging information with him, which meant that she was completely open to him. After understanding what was going on in Wen Yu's mind, Lin Yuan could not help but marvel at Wen Yu's intelligence. After sorting out all the information in her mind, Wen Yu still made such a diversified analysis. Although this analysis was based on the information in Lin Yuan's opinion, this analysis was even more precious than the information itself. When Genius heard Lin Yuan's question, it did not speak the human language and only meowed. The interconnected tail that was connected to Lin Yuan's body shrunk into the shape of a tail and grew back to Genius. Genius swayed its small tail and did not understand why Lin Yuan would ask such a question. In Genius's world, Lin Yuan and Chimey were the pillars and were unique existences. Chimey was a girl, so in Genius's world, Lin Yuan would always be the most handsome, and Chimey would always be the most beautiful. Although neither of them was a cat, after Lin Yuan asked the question, he subconsciously reached out and scratched the back of his head. He felt that his question was really too silly. Lin Yuan sat on the water rhinoceros leather sofa and carefully thought about the information he had received from Wen Yu. End of this chapter. Chapter 733. The Zheng and Miao families were absolute enemies to Lin Yuan. Wen Yu had already sorted out the Miao family's biography when she was looking at the Miao family's information. The Miao family had reported 2 Emperor-class experts to the Radiance Federation, which was why Lin Yuan had not let Endless Summer rashly attack the Miao family. Now, the intelligence on the Miao family and the Zheng family had been revised by Wen Yu. Through Wen Yu's revised intelligence on the Miao and Zheng families, Lin Yuan had a better understanding of their internal situation. From Wen Yu's thoughts, Lin Yuan knew that she guessed that the person who had written the letter in the messenger pigeon was the Zheng family's 3rd young master. Based on her thoughts and the details in the notebook, Lin Yuan felt that her guess was very likely to be true. When Lin Yuan thought about the Blissful Sea tribe's intelligence and recent movements, the corners of his mouth curled into a meaningful smile. Lin Yuan did not expect the Blissful Sea tribe to spend a lot of money to buy several islands protected by the 5 Emperor's mercenaries in the distant sea in the past few days. He was also preparing to build a large-scale fishery for angelfish of bliss around the island. In order to ensure the safety of the Far Sea fishing grounds once and for all, the Blissful Sea clan's cash flow had been halved by the 5 Emperor's mercenary group. The peak faction, the 5 Emperor mercenaries, could be considered a legend in the mercenary world. They were also the only peak faction that specialized in mercenaries. In the beginning, the 5 Emperors mercenary group wasn't called the 5 Emperors mercenary group, but the 3 Emperors mercenary group. The reason why they were called the 3 Emperors mercenary group was because there were 3 Emperor-level experts overseeing the group. With the development of the past few decades, 2 peak-level emperors from the 3 Emperors mercenary troop had advanced to the Overlord rank and ascended to the Emperor rank. From then on, the 3 Emperors mercenaries changed their name to the 5 Emperors mercenaries. As the only peak mercenary force, the 5 Emperors mercenary group was able to have such a high prestige in the mercenary world. Apart from being strong enough, it was mainly because of the 5 Emperors mercenary group's integrity. Quests that couldn't be accepted would be directly rejected. As long as he could complete the next mission 100%. Lin Yuan had been worried about the Blissful Sea Tribe's huge cash flow as a veteran faction. Now it seemed that he had worried too much. Even if he monopolized the Bliss Pollen in the market, he could not guarantee that there would be no Aurora Pollen in the market. It was just that the price of the Aurora Pollen had increased exponentially. In fact, the amount of Aurora Pollen circulating in the market had decreased, making it difficult for the Blissful Sea Tribe to trade for it at a high price. Money makes the world go round. If the Blissful Ocean Tribe had enough cash, they would be able to survive for a period of time. However, now that the Blissful Sea Tribe was building a large number of breeding bases and cutting off his cash flow, it was also a great help to him. From Wen Yu's message, he could feel that the Blissful Sea Tribe seemed to have placed all the pressure on him. They actually brought the contract with the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden to the Spirit Guards to cause trouble for the Beast Creation Garden, demanding that the Beast Creation Garden compensate for the Blissful Ocean Tribe's losses. Everyone could see that the Blissful Sea Tribe had decisively cut off all of their marine fey breeding businesses except for the Angelfish of Blissful. It was true that the Beast Creation Institute had suppressed the Blissful Ocean Tribe, but it wasn't to the extent that the Beast Creation Institute would cut off their own business. But the Sea of Bliss Tribe extorted the Beast Creation Garden. With the Spirit Guards as a guarantor, even if the Beast Creation Garden was a top faction, they could only swallow this loss. The Blissful Sea Tribe had made a brilliant move. But wasn't the Blissful Sea Tribe afraid of the Miao family's revenge? Now, Lin Yuan somewhat understood why the Blissful Sea Tribe had spent so much money to buy the island protected by the 5 Thearchs mercenaries. It seemed that the Blissful Sea Tribe wanted to use the 5 Thearchs mercenaries to prevent the Blissful Sea Tribe's revenge. However, was it appropriate for the Blissful Sea Tribe to place all the pressure on him? Lin Yuan also operated Sky City. If Sky City was at a dead end, perhaps Lin Yuan would give it a try. He would fight for a future. But now, under the premise of stable development, the Blissful Sea Tribe's future was placed on the shoulders of an unfamiliar faction. Such a move was too crazy in Lin Yuan's opinion. It could even be said that they had lost their mind. Moreover, the Blissful Sea Tribe had placed all the pressure on him, but they had cheated him during the transaction. What kind of magical move was this? Lin Yuan felt that if the Blissful Sea Tribe collapsed in the end, he would only get half of the credit. Lin Yuan felt that it was most appropriate to give the remaining half of the credit to the Blissful Sea Tribe. Lin Yuan didn't think much of the Miao family, the Zheng family, and the Blissful Sea Tribe's information. However, the Sun family's Do Immortal Garden's information was too shocking. Lin Yuan didn't expect that one of them controlled more than 60% of the plant phase in the market. In fact, the top faction, which monopolized the supply of dozens of plant phase, was actually empty to the point that there were only 3 core members left. Moreover, the old ones were injured and the young ones were young. The Do Immortal Garden was basically relying on Sun Ningxiang alone. She mediated between the factions that wanted to swallow the Do Immortal Garden or bite off a large piece of its flesh. After understanding the Do Immortal Garden's situation, Lin Yuan could understand why the Miao family wanted to swallow the Do Immortal Garden. Even Lin Yuan was somewhat envious of the Do Immortal Garden's cash flow. The Do Immortal Garden, which had monopolized dozens of spiritual ingredients in the market, was completely qualified to raise the price. However, after the Do Immortal Garden encountered difficulties, it didn't make the decision to raise the price of the monopolized spiritual ingredients. Thus, Lin Yuan could feel the Do Immortal Garden's kindness. If the Do Immortal Garden raised the price, the monopolized spiritual ingredients prices would skyrocket. Then, every industry chain that relied on these spiritual ingredients would collapse. The collapse of each chain would affect countless people. Lin Yuan's targeting of the Blissful Sea Clan was because the Blissful Sea Clan was courting death. Lin Yuan was only relying on the monopoly of the Aurora Pollen, a spiritual ingredient. This showed the Sun family's Do Immortal Garden's strength and influence on the market by monopolizing dozens of spiritual ingredients. After understanding the Do Immortal Garden's information, Lin Yuan found that it was not realistic for him to monopolize the Aurora Pollen. Although the Do Immortal Garden did not monopolize the Aurora Pollen, its flower fields were planted with a massive amount of Aurora Morning Glory. It firmly occupied more than 20% of the market supply of Aurora Pollen. Therefore, if Lin Yuan wanted to monopolize the Aurora Pollen, he could not bypass the Do Immortal Garden. After all, Lin Yuan was not the Aurora Pollen's producer, and his monopoly mainly relied on the Aurora Pollen's extremely long cycle of maturing once every 2 years. If the Blissful Sea clan could establish a relationship with the Dew Immortal Garden and obtain its supply of Aurora pollen, they could completely bypass Lin Yuan's monopoly of the Aurora pollen and let the Blissful Sea clan survive. This was something that Lin Yuan absolutely did not want to see. End of this chapter. Chapter 734. Fortunately, Lin Yuan and Sun Ningxiang were now in a cooperative relationship. After understanding the Sun family's information, Lin Yuan found that the Sun family did not only have the Dew Immortal Garden. There was also the Dew Medical, but it had been discontinued after the Sun family's mishap. Many factions had various functions. Apart from the Chamber of Commerce, mercenaries and breeding bases also had medical functions. Just like the S-Tournament champion, the Rhine Guild Club, behind it was a powerful top faction with medical functions. It occupied the top 5 positions among the top factions all year round. However, the Dew Immortal Garden's Dew Medical was different from other medical organizations. It was not profitable and was considered a charity organization. It supported a large number of low-rank healing-type spirit chi professionals. Most of these healing-type spirit chi professionals were C or D, and there were very few B-rank spirit chi professionals in the Dew Immortal Garden. His contracted phase were mainly at bronze and silver. These low-rank spirit chi professionals were rooted in various places in the Radiance Federation's 32 major cities under the Dew Immortal Garden's support. It helped the poor who were not even spirit chi professionals and the low-rank spirit chi professionals who were seriously injured but could not afford the medical fees for free treatment. When Lin Yuan had been struggling to survive with Chu Ci, he had also received such free treatment. Although Lin Yuan did not know if the Dew Medical had helped him at that time, he had to admit that he admired it. The rich would help the world and the poor would take care of themselves. In Lin Yuan's opinion, the Sun family's Dew Medical could be called Radiance's warmth, allowing every corner of the Radiance world to have a clear light. As for who in the Sun family was injured, there was no information in Wen Yu's mind. It only mentioned that the Sun family's matriarch had killed 3 Pinnacle Class 4 Creation Masters as an Emperor Class expert when the Sun family was in danger. One of the 3 Pinnacle Class 4 Creation Masters had an Emperor Class combat power, but he had been killed by the Sun family's matriarch. It could be seen how powerful the Sun family's matriarch was. However, the Hidden Moon Pavilion's information did not record the Sun family's matriarch's specific injuries. Obviously, the Sun family's matriarch's injuries should be considered the Sun family's top secret. From Sun Ningxiang's desire for the Vitality Camellia, he could roughly infer that the Sun family's matriarch's injuries were certainly not optimistic. As an Emperor-level expert, the spiritual power in his body was like a vast ocean. Normally, the spiritual power in his body would constantly nourish his body. But even in this situation, the muscles of the Sun family's old grandmother still withered and rotted. It seemed that if the Sun family's matriarch didn't receive treatment in time, she wouldn't live long. It was even possible that the old matriarch of the Sun family was already on the verge of death. After understanding the Sun family's Dew Immortal Garden's information, he made slight adjustments to Sky City's strategic layout. Lin Yuan thought to himself, "Looks like I might be able to reach a deeper cooperation with the Sun family's Dew Immortal Garden in the future." If it was Lin Yuan or Sun Ningxiang who didn't understand the Sun family's Dew condensation treatment when facing the Sun family's situation, Lin Yuan might also choose to take a bite of the cake. He even wanted to see if he could swallow the entire Dew congealing Immortal Garden. But after learning about the Sun family's Dew condensed Immortal Garden and its healing property Radiant Warmth, instead of thinking about swallowing the Sun family, Lin Yuan felt that a deeper cooperation for a win-win situation was a better choice. In Lin Yuan's faction, he was the only resource exporter and receiver in Sky City. Although Master Hong Shen and Hu Quan could also create a price, the value created by Master Hong Shen and Hu Quan could not even guarantee the internal consumption of Sky Castle. If he could have a deeper cooperation with the Sun family's Dew Immortal Garden, he could completely expand Sky City's industrial chain. Sky City was the upstream that exported high-end Fays, while the Dew Immortal Garden was the downstream that managed thousands of Fey breeding bases that specialized in nurturing Fays. If they cooperated, they could directly connect Sky City's Fey functions to form a complete industry closed loop. Lin Yuan wanted to go to the Divine Wood Federation, which had the most plant Fays. At that time, the Sun family's tens of thousands of breeding bases could be put to great use. Moreover, with a deeper cooperation with the Sun family, Lin Yuan could also use the Sun family's hundreds of years of connections and resources. They could help him find the spiritual ingredients he needed, as well as the law source crystals and law crystals. This way, the sacred source life form, the sacred sword-wielding queen, could also accelerate its rise in stars. Although he had only used the holy sword-embracing queen's dress in her holy sword queen form, he had never used the holy sword edge in her holy sword form. However, just the dress queen's ability alone made Lin Yuan experience an earth-shattering change. As long as Lin Yuan had law crystals and law source crystals, he could mass-produce the power of law. If the current one-star queen could become a three-star existence and become an existence in its growth period, the sacred sword-wielding queen would each have a function in its princess form and sacred sword form. Lin Yuan was looking forward to the queen's new function. Recently, Lin Yuan sensed that the queen, who had eaten a large number of law fragments and law source crystals, was already faintly moving toward 2-star. At that moment, Lin Yuan, who was refreshed, realized that he had been so busy that he had not gone to the Radiant Moon Palace to see his master, the Moon Empress, for some time. During this process, Lin Yuan also had many questions that he wanted to ask the Moon Empress. When he arrived at the Radiant Moon Palace, he went straight to the inner palace. When he arrived at the Radiant Moon Palace's inner palace, he found that the Moon Empress was not the only one there. At the same time, there was also a tall and somewhat fat old man who looked unusually kind and amiable. The old man shouted at the top of his lungs, "Moon Empress, I'm telling you, don't even think about leaving with the last spirit savory pig. So what if your disciple likes to eat? It wasn't easy for me to snatch it from my disciple's hands." As he spoke, the old man could not help but reveal a puzzled expression. After his little disciple came back, he seemed to have gone crazy. He used so many spirit savory pigs to practice. He wanted to improve the method of braised pork, but he didn't know who to give it to. How could red braised pork be as delicious as double-cooked pork? This is really strange. The Moon Empress had already seen Lin Yuan, who had arrived at the inner palace, and she beckoned for him to come over. The Moon Empress said as she glanced at Chef Supreme, "How can your disciple compare to my disciple? But your 3 disciples are quite filial to you," Yi Zichen said. Chef Supreme blushed when he heard the Moon Empress' words. He could tell that the Moon Empress was being sarcastic. His eldest disciple challenged his limits every day, even though it was to increase his strength. Although it was to increase his strength, every challenge was too extreme, and it was no different from suicide. He couldn't be at ease even for a minute. His second disciple opened a chain restaurant, the Spirit Food Pavilion, but he used his name to let the world think that the Spirit Food Pavilion was opened by him. He used his name to crazily make money. His third disciple was the most worrisome. Not only did he abduct his precious daughter, but he also had a bad temper. His precious daughter did not help him at all and eloped with his third disciple. If he did not compromise, he would not even be able to see his daughter. These days were simply too bitter. In the past, it was fine when the Moon Empress did not have a disciple. Now she had a disciple, and it seemed that she was very satisfied with her disciple. This made Chef Supreme feel even more unbalanced. Chef Supreme looked up at Lin Yuan, ready to see what kind of person the Moon Empress had chosen as her disciple. When Chef Supreme saw Lin Yuan, he felt that his temperament was excellent, but Lin Yuan was stunned when he saw Chef Supreme. Lin Yuan almost blurted out and called her Auntie Zhang. However, Lin Yuan held back the words. The explosive update is completed. After knowing that there was a recommendation, he had been working during the day and barely slept at night to write 10 updates. Button's journey has been super tortuous. Thank you for everyone's constant company and support. Button will continue to work hard to write the rest of the story. I hope that those who like this book can give Button a full subscription and support him so that he can go further. In addition, please ask for recommendation votes, monthly votes, subscriptions, and gifts. I'm done updating. I'm going to sleep. I hope everyone has a good time reading. End of this chapter. Chapter 735. Lin Yuan fixed his eyes on the old man in front of him. The more he looked, the more he felt that this old man was a male version of Auntie Zhang. Or rather, Auntie Zhang looked decades older after becoming a man. Although Auntie Zhang and this old man had different heights and figures, their facial features were as if they were carved from the same mold. The Radiance Federation had a large population, so it was not strange to have 2 similar people. However, such similar facial features could only be related by blood as long as they were not deliberately imitated or disguised. When Lin Yuan arrived at the Radiant Moon Palace's inner palace, he heard the old man say, "Don't even think about leaving with the last spirit savory pig." Lin Yuan had heard his master mention the spirit savory pig, and he had eaten it before. He had even been full of praise for its taste. Naturally, he knew the old man's identity from the conversation between his master and the Moon Empress. This old man was Chef Supreme, one of the Radiance Federation's 3 Class 5 creation masters like his master. However, Lin Yuan was a little curious. What was the relationship between Chef Supreme and Auntie Zhang? Immediately after, Lin Yuan thought of Auntie Zhang's endangered fantasy breed Fei that had mimicked the terror rabbit. It was also because Morbius had just woken up that Lin Yuan had accidentally checked the terror rabbit's information out of curiosity and found out that Auntie Zhang was a person with a story. Lin Yuan did not have too many guesses about the relationship between Auntie Zhang and Chef Supreme. Now, Uncle Li would basically call Lin Yuan every other week. When Chu Xi was around, Lin Yuan and Auntie Zhang would chat for half an hour together. When Chu Xi was not around, Lin Yuan would chat with Uncle Li and Auntie Zhang for half an hour. Lin Yuan decided to ask Auntie Zhang and Auntie Zhang the next time he contacted them. Anyway, Lin Yuan had nothing to fear from elders like Auntie Zhang and Uncle Li who had watched him grow up. After seeing Lin Yuan, Chef Supreme felt that Lin Yuan had an excellent temperament at first. However, after realizing that Lin Yuan was staring at him, Chef Supreme also looked at Lin Yuan a few more times. After these few glances, Chef Supreme suddenly felt that Lin Yuan was very familiar. After thinking about it again, Chef Supreme, who was a Class 5 creation master, shivered and felt that the air in the Radiant Moon Palace's inner palace was faintly cold. Chef Supreme hurriedly withdrew his gaze from Lin Yuan and looked awkwardly at the Moon Empress. When I get back, I must beat up that traitorous disciple 8 times. It's all thanks to the fact that after I accepted my first and second disciples caused me quite a bit of trouble. After taking in a little disciple, he was always on tenterhooks, so he swore that he would never take in another disciple again, completely cutting off all thoughts of taking in another disciple. Otherwise, if I really listen to my eldest disciple and interact with this youth in front of me, I will become the one who is trying to poach the Moon Empress disciple. If the Moon Empress were to find out, it would be disastrous. Given the Moon Empress temperament, even the kitchen fragrance palace would be destroyed by her. Ever since the Moon Empress saw Lin Yuan walk into the inner palace, her attention had been on him. Therefore, he did not notice the change in Chef Supreme's expression. Upon seeing Lin Yuan staring fixedly at Chef Supreme, the Moon Empress recalled the information Mystic Moon had compiled about Lin Yuan before accepting him as a disciple. He immediately knew what was going on. However, this was a family matter regarding the Chef Supreme, so it was not convenient for the Moon Empress to point it out to Lin Yuan. When the Moon Empress saw that Lin Yuan's lips were a little dry, she picked up the smooth jade teapot from the table. He poured the spirit tea from the teapot into the exquisite teacup on the table. Immediately after, she handed the exquisite teacup to Lin Yuan and said, "You're welcome. Drink a cup of pine needle dew tea to moisten your throat. Now that winter is turning into spring, the weather is relatively dry. You should also pay attention to drinking more water." After Lin Yuan took the pine needle lotus dew tea poured by the Moon Empress, she turned to Chef Supreme and said, "Master, I'll be fine. Chef Supreme, this is my disciple and also my only disciple." Although Chef Supreme's face did not change, he felt as if he had bumped into a ghost. Chef Supreme was all too clear about the Moon Empress' temper and character. He was a powerful existence in the Radiance Imperial Court who dared to flip the table over a single disagreement. However, the domineering Moon Empress was actually so gentle to her disciple. Furthermore, from the word only in the second half of the Moon Empress words, it was obvious how much she valued Lin Yuan. The reason why a top powerhouse would accept a disciple was to find an inheritance. The reason why Chef Supreme accepted a disciple after his eldest disciple was that he found that his eldest disciple would not inherit his skills at all. Instead, he was trying to pull me over to learn his creation master theory. Under such circumstances, Chef Supreme accepted his second disciple. In the end, his second disciple learned his creation master theories and realized that he was not interested in creation master abilities. He only liked to cook, so he went into business and opened the Spirit Food Pavilion. His third disciple perfectly inherited his legacy, and Chef Supreme could tolerate it even if he had to be on tenterhooks all day long. However, after the Moon Empress accepted one disciple, she cut off the idea of accepting another disciple. It was obvious how satisfied the Moon Empress was with her disciple. Thinking about the Moon Empress proposal in the previous Imperial Court meeting, the meaning was self-evident. It was obviously to pave the way for her disciple. At the same time, it also showed the Moon Empress trust in Lin Yuan. The Radiance Envoy's path could never be paved. One had to have true ability to walk step by step. What the Moon Empress gave Lin Yuan was nothing more than to help a rising star like him fight for a fair opportunity. After the Moon Empress introduced Lin Yuan to Chef Supreme, she turned to Lin Yuan beside her and said, "You will be going to the Outer Realm for training? You'll be going to the Outer Realm to train. You haven't met Supreme Chef yet. Go and greet him." Lin Yuan immediately walked in front of Chef Supreme and gave him a junior's salute. Junior Lin Yuan greets Chef Supreme. Chef Supreme's brows twitched wildly when he heard what the Moon Empress said to Lin Yuan. This sentence seemed to be said to Lin Yuan, but the Moon Empress was saying it to him. She was hinting that Lin Yuan was going to the Outer Realm for training and was giving him something useful for the training. After seeing Lin Yuan give a junior's salute, Chef Supreme immediately waved his hand, and a small golden toad appeared in his hand. "This is our first meeting. This little thing made of the treasure cave golden toad's stomach sac and skin will be my gift to you." As he spoke, Chef Supreme recalled what his eldest disciple and daughter had said when they had asked him to accept Lin Yuan as a disciple. His gaze toward Lin Yuan involuntarily became kind. When the Moon Empress, who was standing next to Lin Yuan, saw the greeting gift from Chef Supreme, her usually calm face showed a hint of surprise. After Lin Yuan thanked Chef Supreme, he had already taken the small golden toad from Chef Supreme's hand. When Lin Yuan used true data to look at this small golden toad, a look of surprise immediately appeared on his face. First, end of this chapter. Chapter 736. When Chef Supreme took out the little golden toad, Lin Yuan felt that it was full of vitality. Moreover, the golden toad's big eyes were very lively, as if they were going to jump up and land on the tip of his nose at any time. When Chef Supreme said that this little golden toad was made from the treasure cave golden toad's stomach sac and skin, Lin Yuan knew that this little golden toad was not a living creature. However, he had never heard of a fae like the treasure cave golden toad. It might not have been long since Genius became a fantasy breed and transformed into the internet beast, but Genius had already read all the books on faes on the star web. He had also completely grasped the knowledge of a Class 4 fae observer. When Lin Yuan heard the words treasured cave golden toad, he had already communicated with Genius in his mind. Genius was very unfamiliar with the treasured cave golden toad. It was obvious that Genius had never come into contact with any knowledge regarding the treasured cave golden toad. When Lin Yuan used true data to check, he immediately knew what use this little golden toad had. No wonder Genius did not recognize the treasured cave golden toad. It was not a spiritual creature. It was a sacred source life form. The Moon Empress looked at Chef Supreme and said, "You really put in a lot of effort. You're actually willing to give such a strategic treasure to my disciple as a greeting gift." Upon hearing the Moon Empress' words, Chef Supreme revealed a kind smile and said half-jokingly, "Even if I can't bear to do it now, I can't go back on my words and take back the gift I gave to the younger generation." Supreme Chef had never thought of himself as a generous person. Class 5 Creation Masters were the pinnacle of the Radiance Federation's Creation Masters. There were countless pinnacle factions and experts from all walks of life who wanted to seek Chef Supreme's help. If Supreme Chef was a generous person, he would have died of exhaustion by now. It was also common for experts to exchange greeting gifts after accepting disciples. For example, Chef Supreme's 3 disciples, the Moon Empress, gave each of them a greeting gift after meeting. In fact, Chef Supreme had no intention of giving the treasure cave golden toad's skin and stomach to the Moon Empress disciple. However, after knowing who the Moon Empress disciple was, Chef Supreme recalled what his daughter had said when she had forced him to accept Lin Yuan as her disciple. "Oldly and I don't have children. We have always treated Lin Yuan as our junior." Chef Supreme only had one daughter, so apart from his own little disciple, Lin Yuan could be said to be the person closest to Chef Supreme among the younger generation. This precious artifact made from the skin and stomach of the treasure cave golden toad was best used for long-distance teleportation. It could be used to train outside the city. Supreme Chef had intended to leave such a precious tool for his little disciple. However, after witnessing his little disciple's ability to court death, Chef Supreme felt that sending his little disciple to the outer realm to train was tantamount to letting his little disciple court death. That was why Chef Supreme had given such a precious artifact to Lin Yuan as a meeting gift. It could also be considered as letting the Moon Empress owe him a favor. The Moon Empress looked at the treasure cave golden toad, which was a sacred source life form, and solemnly said to Chef Supreme, "Thanks a lot." When Lin Yuan heard the Moon Empress' words, He immediately knew that this treasure made from the treasure cave golden toad's stomach sac and skin should be abnormally precious. Otherwise, with her master status, the Moon Empress would not have thanked Chef Supreme. However, Lin Yuan did not feel that the effects of this treasure cave golden toad's precious artifact were that amazing. However, it was undeniable that this treasure cave golden toad's precious artifact had indeed solved one of Lin Yuan's problems. During long-distance teleportation, spatial equipment like the Fey storage box could not be used. This was considered common sense and Lin Yuan had long known this. In fact, Lin Yuan was not very worried about this. When training in the outer realm, he could put spatial equipment like the Fey storage box in the spirit lock spatial zone. That way, there would not be the slightest problem during the teleportation process through the spatial tunnel. However, in terms of teleporting people, Lin Yuan had not found any better method apart from using spatial spiritual ingredients. After all, spirit chi professionals could not be stored in the Fey storage box like Feys. Although the spatial tunnel could be used as a portal between the Radiance Federation and the Divine Wood Federation, during each teleportation process, when the spatial energy accumulated in the spatial tunnel was exhausted, Lin Yuan would need to use a large number of spatial spiritual ingredients to replenish the spatial energy consumed in the spatial tunnel. Although the spatial tunnel could also self-recover the spatial energy consumed, it would take a very long time. Although the space tunnel could also recover the consumed spatial energy, it would take a long time for it to do so. The spatial tunnel had not been established yet, so Lin Yuan did not know how many units the spatial tunnel could teleport at one time. However, Lin Yuan was sure that there would not be many units that could be teleported. Given the ethereal jellyfish's current silver eye/legend strength, Lin Yuan felt that the spatial tunnel could not even teleport him over. Lin Yuan planned to enhance the ethereal jellyfish's strength before opening the spatial tunnel. The ethereal jellyfish was a spatial teleportation source-type life form that his master, the Moon Empress, had given him. It was a precious strategic class resource. The precondition for the ethereal jellyfish's contract was to concoct a spirit fluid made of spatial spiritual ingredients. Such a spirit fluid could only be concocted by Class 5 creation masters. Although Lin Yuan could produce a large amount of pure spirit chi that even Class 5 creation masters could not concoct, he could not concoct a Class 5 spirit fluid with spatial spiritual ingredients. The ethereal jellyfish and the acid corrosion queen bee were very similar in that they could not fuse with a contractor's willpower rune. Instead, it needed to increase its strength to Diamond X/legend like a wild fey before it could comprehend a willpower rune from the natural world and become a fantasy breed. Therefore, Lin Yuan planned to increase the ethereal jellyfish's strength to the limit that he could withstand at present, which was Platinum X/legend. This way, the ethereal jellyfish's exclusive skill, spatial tunnel, could be maximized. Lin Yuan had previously wondered if he could let others enter the spirit lock spatial zone to teleport them. However, after this idea appeared, Lin Yuan immediately rejected it. In Lin Yuan's opinion, Morbius' existence was a secret that was more important than the sacred source lifeform's sacred sword-wielding queen's function. It would not be revealed to anyone. Therefore, he could not let others enter the spirit lock spatial zone. Lin Yuan originally wanted to transfer the people of Sky City to the Divine Wood Federation through the spatial tunnel, but he could only consume a large amount of spatial spiritual ingredients. However, the treasure cave golden toad skin and stomach pouch that Chef Supreme had given him could store spirit chi professionals like the spirit lock spatial zone. However, the space inside the treasure cave golden toad's relic was very small, only about 2 cubic meters. Could only store 10 people at most. The second was even smaller. End of this chapter. Chapter 737. Furthermore, the treasure cave golden toad's relic was an inanimate object and could not evolve like the spirit lock spatial zone. The Moon Empress relic was so precious, yet it was so different from Morbius' spirit lock spatial zone. This made Lin Yuan even more confused about what kind of existence Morbius was. Lin Yuan touched the extremely soft treasure cave golden toad relic and gently squeezed it. It felt as though he was touching a layer of skin. It was extremely soft. It had to be said that the treasure cave golden toad's relic had touched upon Lin Yuan's knowledge blind spot. Lin Yuan had been a spirit chi professional for a long time, and in this 1 year Lin Yuan's horizons had grown rapidly. Even some king-class experts' lifetime horizons could not compare to the horizons that Lin Yuan had gained in a year. However, Lin Yuan had never heard of using spiritual ingredients to create a relic. When the Moon Empress saw Lin Yuan looking at the treasure cave golden toad relic in deep thought, she explained, sacred source lifeforms, phase and source-type lifeforms are different. After killing the spirit chi professional that contracted the sacred source lifeform and obtaining the corpse of the sacred source lifeform, a special spiritual ingredient will be able to inherit a small portion of the sacred source lifeform's abilities. Specific spirit materials separated from the corpse of a sacred source lifeform can inherit a small portion of the sacred source lifeform's power. In the hands of a Class 5 creation master, this spiritual ingredient can be used to create a relic. However, after creating a relic, the sacred source lifeform's abilities will be greatly reduced. The remaining abilities will not even be 1% of the original abilities. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan immediately understood what was going on with the relic. It turned out that a relic could only be created with spiritual ingredients from a sacred source lifeform. At the same time, Lin Yuan also learned about the other ability of a Class 5 creation master, which was to use spiritual ingredients from a sacred source lifeform to create a relic. A Class 5 creation master's ability to use spiritual ingredients from a sacred source lifeform to create a relic was something that Lin Yuan did not possess. This made Lin Yuan realize that the distance between him and a true Class 5 creation master was not as simple as enhancing a phase grade. Lin Yuan's face revealed a bright smile, revealing his white teeth as he spoke to the Moon Empress and the Chef Supreme. "Master, I understand. Thank you for your kindness, Chef Supreme." The Chef Supreme looked at the intimate interaction between Lin Yuan and the Moon Empress. One was willing to teach and the other was willing to learn. Then, thinking of his 3 troublesome disciples, Chef Supreme felt a headache coming on. Supreme Chef felt that he shouldn't stay here and watch other people's master-disciple relationship anymore. Looking at the deep relationship between a master and his disciple was simply asking for trouble. "Moon Empress, you didn't look for me just to let me meet your disciple and give him a greeting gift, right?" Upon hearing that, the Moon Empress knew that Chef Supreme was about to leave, so she started to talk about business. "Qingyue has also taken in a disciple. In 10 days, a great Nix assembly will be held in Yiyang Palace. Don't be absent then." When Chef Supreme heard that, his kind face immediately turned cloudy, and he gave a cold snort. What does Knight Qingyue taking a disciple have to do with this old man? Furthermore, the dimensional rift is currently active. Why isn't Night Leaning Moon overseeing the land of spirit suppression? Why did she move back to Night Glory Palace? The Moon Empress looked at Chef Supreme helplessly. She knew that Chef Supreme and Night Leaning Moon had always been at odds with each other. The Moon Empress herself wasn't willing to inform Chef Supreme about the Nix assembly. However, the Great Night Assembly this time was of great importance, so Chef Supreme had to attend. The pagoda cannon is active again. The main purpose of the Nix assembly this time is for us to meet up and discuss our plans for the pagoda cannon. Before Zishi's main body returned from the outer realm, he caught the leader of the 7 pages of war on the Dark Corrosion continent. Through the leader's memory, he found out about the plan that the tower cannon had been plotting for 100 years. It's just that Zishi didn't manage to read the specifics of this 100-year plan from 7th Page War's mind. But this 100-year plan has a name, the Awakening of the Dormant. Although I don't know what this plan is, it has 3 stages: seed, germination and bloom. The 3 stages of this 100-year plan have now unknowingly reached the germination stage. Chef Supreme furrowed his brows and said in a deep voice, "I will arrive at Yiyang Palace in 10 days. As soon as he said that, Chef Supreme's figure disappeared from the back hall of the Radiant Moon Palace. When the Moon Empress spoke to Chef Supreme, she did not turn her back to Lin Yuan. Therefore, Lin Yuan also knew about the tower cannon's plan. Lin Yuan now had a close relationship with the tower cannon. The Suzerain/Myth 2 Night Calamity Crow and the Hunting Ashes in the evolving dimensional rift outside Indigo Azure City were both 7th Page War's subordinates. 7th Page War was also one of the 8 pages of the tower cannon. Upon hearing his master, the Moon Empress, mention the plan, Lin Yuan suddenly felt a sense of urgency. Lin Yuan could not help his master, the Moon Empress, with anything now, but he should also prepare. Since the tower cannon's plan, the Awakening of the Dormant, was a 100-year plan. From the germination stage to the bloom stage, it would take at least a few decades. It was just that no one could be sure how long it had been in the germination stage. However, Lin Yuan believed that as long as he was given another 3 years, he would definitely be able to help his master. The Moon Empress also had her own plans. For example, when she had mentioned the tower cannon just now, she had deliberately not turned her back to Lin Yuan. Since Lin Yuan wanted to become a member of the Radiance 100 sequence, he would definitely work hard toward becoming a Radiance envoy. If that was the case, it would be good for Lin Yuan to know all of this earlier. The Moon Empress watched as Lin Yuan took out a bottle that contained a mercury-like viscous liquid. At that moment, after the Moon Empress took out the liquid in the bottle, it kept emitting spatial ripples. Fine spatial ripples stacked together, as if hundreds and thousands of spatial flowers were overlapping in the sky. The Moon Empress used her hand to shake the spirit fluid in the bottle, which seemed to activate the spatial activity of the spirit fluid. The hundreds and thousands of space flowers that overlapped outside the bottle instantly turned into an abnormal rain of petals. The Moon Empress said to Lin Yuan, "Xian Yu has already helped you find a place to place the ethereal jellyfish's tentacles in the Divine Wood Federation of the Agawan continent. You can choose to open a spatial tunnel connecting the Radiance Federation and the Divine Wood Federation at any time. The spirit fluid in this bottle was concocted from the half-shell of the ethereal jellyfish, a sacred source life form. The spirit fluid in the bottle is enough to strengthen the ethereal jellyfish to Diamond X/Legendary. After speaking about the spirit fluid concocted from the half-shell of the ethereal jellyfish, the Moon Empress took out a palm-sized jade bowl. There was a very petite, tender yellow plant planted in the jade bowl. However, the tender yellow plant looked like a malnourished weed, but there was a white flower that was bigger than the plant. The flower bud at the front of the flower was already faintly open as if it would bloom at any time. There were many small yellow spots in the white half-flower bud, and at a glance, it was like seeing a sky full of stars during the day. The Moon Empress handed the spirit fluid and the plant to Lin Yuan. "This is the Starlight Jitan. Eat the crystalline pollen in the middle of the Starlight Jitan's blooming flower, and you will be able to rank up. By then you can let the ethereal jellyfish reach peak diamond so that it can comprehend willpower as soon as possible and increase its chances of becoming a fantasy breed." When Lin Yuan heard the Moon Empress' words, he knew that his master had seen the fact that he had become a B-rank spirit chi professional. Lin Yuan did not refuse the Moon Empress' gift and reached out to take the spirit fluid and the Starlight Jitan. The Moon Empress was very happy to see that Lin Yuan had accepted her gifts. Knowing that Lin Yuan was going to the Divine Wood Federation later, the Moon Empress seriously instructed him. Then she invited Lin Yuan to have lunch in the Radiant Moon Palace and had a question-and-answer session with him before letting him leave. When Lin Yuan returned to the mansion, he saw Master Hong Shen and Hu Quan sitting together. Master Hong Shen was gesticulating excitedly, while Hu Quan, who was sitting at the side and drawing the blueprint, was so angry that his nose was crooked. Chapter 3. End of this chapter. Chapter 738. Master Hong Shen, who was gesticulating, said in high spirits, "Old Hu, 30 meters underground is too shallow. Old Hu, 30 meters underground is too shallow. We have to dig at least 300 meters. Furthermore, the underground space has to be large and sturdy enough. It is best if diamond phase roll around underground and have no impact on the underground space." Master Hong Shen was sloppy and had been busy with something during this period of time without showering. This caused the beard on Master Hong Shen's chin to be bunched up. When Master Hong Shen spoke, the saliva that popped out of his mouth was stuck to his messy beard. He was so excited that he almost grabbed the brush in Hu Quan's hand to help Hu Quan draw the underground space's design. When Hu Quan heard Master Hong Shen's words, he felt as though firecrackers were set off in his head. For some reason, Hu Quan's heart suddenly surged up as he slammed the brush in his hand on the table and said angrily, "Old Hong, 30 meters underground is enough. Old man Hong, 30 meters underground is enough. Do you know that you have to dig 300 meters? The soil layer in the 30-meter underground space already contains a large amount of water vapor. If you dig another meter, the water in the soil layer will seep out. Are you going to create an underground space to nurture phase or an underground reservoir to store underground water? It isn't impossible to dig the underground space to 300 meters, but the surroundings of the underground space have to be reinforced with the platinum metal, infiltrated rock steel. Even if you aren't a spirit craftsman as a Class 4 creation master, you should know the price of infiltrated rock steel. Without infiltrated rock steel to block the underground water, the entire underground space will be extremely damp, let alone diamond phase rolling around inside. Even if a gold earth-type Fey releases an elemental ability, the underground space won't be able to support it. It is easy to dig a deep underground space with oxygen. Most Fays that can release oxygen can replenish the oxygen needed by the underground space, but what about light? Even if you open a few windows in the ground above the underground space, when the sunlight shines down, it can only illuminate a depth of 100 meters. The underground space below 200 meters will still be pitch black. As a Class 5 spirit craftsman, drawing designs was Master Hu Quan's job, and it was something he was proud of. Hu Quan had always hated laymen pointing fingers at him when he was drawing designs. When Hu Quan and Lin Yuan discussed the construction of the hidden WRM lake, Lin Yuan's opinions and requests made Hu Quan feel refreshed. He even had a different kind of inspiration in the design. When discussing the hidden WRM lake's construction with Lin Yuan's suggestions were often accompanied by a large amount of resources. This allowed Hu Quan to not overcalculate the cost of materials, which would affect the design's exquisiteness. Thus, Hu Quan was very willing to discuss the mansion's construction with Lin Yuan. However, in Hu Quan's opinion, every word that Master Hong Shen said could be said to be an unrealistic and unreasonable request. If Master Hong Shen had not said that the underground space's construction had received Lin Yuan's approval, Hu Quan would not have listened to Master Hong Shen's instructions to draw the design. Master, who didn't, replied, Master Hong, Master didn't said, replied. Master, replied, said, Master, said. Hu Quan felt that discussing the underground space's construction with Master Hong Shen would not yield any results, so he stood up and said, when Lin Yuan returns, I'll ask him how the underground space should be built. Hu Quan stood up and said, when Lin Yuan returns, I'll ask him how the underground space should be built. Hu Quan immediately saw Lin Yuan, who had just stepped through the door. Hu Quan hurriedly said to Lin Yuan, you're back. Do you have any suggestions or plans for the underground space? Master Hong Shen turned around and saw Lin Yuan. His eyes lit up and he said, Young Master, I've bought that forest. Young Master, I've already bought that forest. I found that the soil under that forest is very fertile, and I also found a nest of earth-drilling earthworms in that land. After special breeding, these earth-drilling earthworms can evolve into rotten earth gnomes. Upon hearing Master Hong Shen's words, Lin Yuan immediately knew why Master Hong Shen wanted to dig the underground space 300 meters below. It was because the gravity attached to the environment 300 meters below was an important condition to induce the earth-drilling earthworms to evolve into rotten earth gnomes. With the rotten earth gnomes, they could have a large amount of soil with high humus. Lin Yuan had also asked Master Hong Shen to conduct a detailed study on the golden lotus brocade plant, and Master Hong Shen had come to the same conclusion as Genius. If he wanted the golden lotus brocade stock's child stalk to grow quickly, he would need a large amount of soil with high humus content. Otherwise, the golden lotus brocade stock's mother ramets would absorb the nutrients from the original child ramets before they could grow up. As a result, the child sprouts withered. Lin Yuan nodded at Master Hong Shen. That's a good job. I'll leave the matter of breeding the earth-drilling earthworm into the rotten earth centipede to you. Then Lin Yuan looked at Hu Quan and said, Uncle Hu, the underground space really has to be 300 meters deep because I want to open a space tunnel underground from the manor to the Divine Wood Federation. When Hu Quan heard the first half of Lin Yuan's words, he still did not quite understand. Lin Yuan would not dig the underground space 300 meters underground just to cultivate the rotten earthworms, right? How much was the humus produced by the soil saprophyte worm worth? Even if it required a large amount of resources, it would not be more than the resources needed to excavate 300 meters underground. When Hu Quan heard that Lin Yuan wanted to open a space tunnel from the manor to the Divine Wood Federation, he immediately knew the strategic significance of the underground space. Given such a strategic significance, it was still very necessary to excavate 300 meters underground. When Master Hong Shen heard Lin Yuan's words, a surprised emotion flashed in his eyes. Master Hong Shen had not been in the manor for a long time and usually did not stay in the manor. Although Master Hong Shen usually got along very well with everyone, he who had just arrived at the mansion could not be sure how deep the relationship between Hu Quan and Lin Yuan was. Therefore, when Master Hong Shen said to excavate 300 meters underground, he did not tell Hu Quan that Lin Yuan wanted to cultivate a large number of golden lotus brocade stalks. The golden lotus brocade stalk was a fei that could make any creation master go crazy, so it was exceptionally precious in Master Hong Shen's eyes. Coupled with the rotten earthworms, Master Hong Shen felt that digging 300 meters underground would not only increase the golden lotus pearl's secrecy, but it would also allow him to cultivate the golden lotus pearl without looking forward to buying humus soil. At the same time, he would not need to look forward to buying humus soil in the process of cultivating the golden lotus pearl. However, Master Hong Shen did not expect Lin Yuan to open a space tunnel in the manner that was connected to the Divine Wood Federation. First, end of this chapter. Chapter 739. Master Hong Xin might have just become a Class 4 creation master not long ago, but his horizons were much higher than the average person. Therefore, Master Hong Xin was very clear that a long-distance space tunnel connecting two federations was a kind of precious strategic resource. Master Hong Xin had always known that Lin Yuan had a lot of resources. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to casually take out a spiritual ingredient from a myth 2 fey that could heal the soul. However, the value of the cold snow pine tree's sap calcined into cold snow pine incense could not be compared to a spatial tunnel connecting two federations. This allowed Master Hong Xin to understand how wealthy the person who had saved him and served him for the latter half of his life was. Hu Quan sat on the water rhinoceros leather sofa again, picked up his pen, and spoke to Lin Yuan with a serious expression. He said to Lin Yuan with a serious expression, "Lin Yuan, why don't you share your opinion like you did when we built the hidden flood dragon lake? When I draw the design, I can design it according to your opinion." Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan pondered for a moment and waved his hand. A heaven and earth fey, the reflection Sun King Lotus, that he had just nurtured to bronze, was summoned. When Master Hong Xin, who was sitting on the sofa, saw Lin Yuan take out the reflection Sun King Lotus, he couldn't help but clap his hands and laugh. However, his laughter sounded a little wretched. Master Hong Xin's eyes were relaxed. As a Class 4 creation master, Master Hong Xin naturally saw through the reflection Sun King Lotus in Lin Yuan's hand. Master Hong Xin was originally very worried that the light that Lin Yuan mentioned could not reach the standard of nurturing the Golden Lotus brocade. The Golden Lotus brocade needed a high degree of reliance on sunlight for rapid growth. The Golden Lotus brocade wished that it could be directly exposed to the sun for at least 12 hours a day. Less than that, the Golden Lotus brocade's growth speed would decline sharply. Lin Yuan's reflection Sun King Lotus could effectively solve the underground space's lighting problem after nurturing it. "Uncle Hu, this is a heaven and earth fey, the reflection Sun King Lotus. The reflection Sun King Lotus absorbs sunlight during the day, and the lotus root that grows at night is like a small sun. It can satisfy the underground space's sunlight requirement. When building the underground space, I want you to plant the reflection Sun King Lotus at the top of the underground space and hang it upside down like a chandelier." Hu Quan pondered for a moment and said, That's fine, but the underground space can't just have one big room. Making a single space too big will reduce the earthquake resistance of the underground space. If every room in the underground space is shrunk to 200 square meters, and a large amount of high-grade spirit materials are used in conjunction with seeping rock steel, I'm confident that the underground space won't be affected as long as it doesn't face a direct attack from a myth-breed fey. Master Hong Xin did not understand the work of a spirit craftsman, but he had heard from Hu Quan that each room could not exceed 200 square meters. Master Hong Xin's originally relaxed brows furrowed again. 200 square meters was definitely not enough to nurture a fey like the Golden Lotus brocade. At most, 200 square meters could only nurture 800 Golden Lotus brocade pearls in one go. Since he had already decided to nurture it, he couldn't possibly nurture too little, right? Master Hong Xin felt that it wouldn't be a problem for him to take care of the 2,000 square meters of flower brocade pearls. He could even concoct some spiritual liquids to help the angelfish of bliss advance to the platinum level. Upon hearing Hu Quan's words, Lin Yuan replied calmly, "Uncle Hu, you can plant a sun reflection king lotus in every underground space. I have many reflection sun monarch lotuses here." After speaking, Lin Yuan said to Master Hong Xin, who was at the side, "Master Hong Xin, if you have the time, please upgrade the reflection sun monarch lotus on the hidden dragon lake to Diamond X/Legend." The reflection sun king lotus that Lin Yuan had asked Master Hong Xin to enhance was the mother plant that he had obtained from Master Duan Li. He had already planted it in the hidden Wyrm lake. Hu Quan was now a Class 4 creation master and had the ability to upgrade phase to Diamond X. Once the underground space was established, all the sunlight would have to be absorbed by the mother plant of the shining sun monarch lotus planted in the hidden dragon lake. At that time, he only needed to guide the roots of the reflection sun king lotus mother plant and the roots of the reflection sun king lotus seedling growing underground. At that time, even if the flowers of the seedlings did not see sunlight, they could still rely on their connected roots to absorb the sunlight stored in the lotus roots by the mother rhizome. At this moment, the project of laying the sky river stones and embedding the sea vein stones at the bottom of the hidden dragon lake was almost completed. He would let Master Hong Xin nurture the reflection sun king lotus's mother plant to the peak of diamond and reach a state of complete victory. It would also allow Hu Quan to lead many great 3 spirit craftsmen to build a pavilion on the reflection sun king lotus. Otherwise Hu Quan and the others would be delayed. When Master Hong Shen heard Lin Yuan's instructions, he quickly guaranteed and said, "Leave it to me. Within 3 days I will be able to complete the enhancement of the Reflection Sun King Lotus on the Hidden Dragon Lake." For Master Hong Shen, Lin Yuan's assignment this time was the first mission he had received since arriving at the mansion. Therefore he had to complete it beautifully. After Lin Yuan arranged Master Hong Shen's work, he continued to speak to Hu Quan. "There are no other construction requirements for the underground space. There are no other construction requirements for the underground space. Of course, if possible, try to strengthen the underground space a little more. Don't be stingy with the use of metal spiritual materials. I think it's a great choice to use the Mother of Bloodbath and Endless Summer as the walls and paving of the radium uranium steel in the training room." Hu Quan coughed lightly when he heard that. Hu Quan already knew Lin Yuan's style. If he wanted to do something, he would do it to the best. The Spirit Craftsman Guild had a large stockpile of metals, including the radium uranium steel. The production of the diamond radium uranium steel was actually not low. It was a metal that was produced in small quantities in Class 3-dimensional rifts and in large quantities in Class 4-dimensional rifts. However, the diamond radium uranium steel was extremely strong and had a wide range of uses, so it was expensive. Even as a Class 5 Spirit Craftsman, Hu Quan had to pay a considerable fee to take the radium uranium steel from the Spirit Craftsman Guild. However, as a Class 5 Spirit Craftsman, Hu Quan was already qualified to take the Spirit Craftsman Guild's metals and spiritual materials at will. Lin Yuan, the Radium Uranium Steel Spirit Craftsman Guild has a large inventory. However, the radium uranium steel can't be purchased with radiance dollars in the Spirit Craftsman Guild. It needs to be exchanged with precious materials that can replace currency. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan's face lit up. It was great that Hu Quan could solve the problem of the radium uranium steel. Otherwise, Lin Yuan would have to go to the Purchase with No Loss Stores fan club to collect the radium uranium steel through the connections he had accumulated previously. During this period, Lin Yuan's Purchase with No Loss store had stockpiled a large amount of Aurora pollen through blind trading in 3 batches every day. Every day, 30 newcomers would join the Star Web Stores fan club. The second batch was even more. End of this chapter. You're tuning in to the Han Lee's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.